Hello, everybody, and welcome along to the FindingSpeed.com YouTube channel. And we are all here for one thing and one thing only, the 2 hours of LeMons. This is the third Finding Speed community event, and we're going to be in for a wild one because we have got a full field of GTE cars all tearing around this 13.5 kilometer circuit. And obviously, if we're doing the 2 hours of LeMons, it's got to be around the circuit, the 24-hour LeMans. And this is obviously world renowned for hosting the 24 hours of Le Mans. And yes, we're snipping that down by quite the margin today, but it doesn't mean we're going to have any less action. So at the moment, we've currently got most of the cars out on circuit, doing various lap times, just getting used to the circuit. We'll have a look at one, for example. We're looking at Hugo Drouet. Actually, he has decided to go into the pits behind the wheel of his Ferrari 488 GTE. Let's see who we got out on track. Here is Nathan Richardson for RPM Red. And he's been pushing hard throughout the entire session. He's just gone out onto another outlap to see what he can do and make inroads into the cars ahead. And yeah, we're definitely in for quite the race. You can see just that's a sight to behold. That you can almost see every car in the class behind Nathan there. And speaking of cars in class, there are 4 car choices available for you today. And I say for you because we've still got time. If you want to enter this race, and I'm not sure how much room we've still got left in the session, but if you are watching now, if you are one of the 11 viewers currently watching the stream, please do feel free to get onto the iRacing website, go over to the hosted tab, and then have a look down, scroll down, and you will see FindingSpeed.com community race. It might just be under FindingSpeed.com. If not, filter it by name or by circuit. Scroll your way down to Le Mans, and you should see it there. Hop in, and speaking of the cars, obviously there's 4 car choices you can have. We've already seen the Ferrari 488 GTE. We're looking at the Porsche 911 RSR. If we want to go for something slightly different, we can go to this one here, Nicholas Yarrington, in the BMW M8 GTE. And we also have a car which you don't commonly see, really, obviously with the recent updates. We've got this here, the 4GT 2017. So a car which we don't tend to see, and it's probably not the best sounding car in my opinion, but hang on, I'll let the Porsche screen by. There we go. It's probably one of the better looking cars, and you can join in. Like I've mentioned, it is an open hosted session, so if you want to get involved, you want to join in, you will just need to head over to the iRacing.com website, over to hosted, down until you find FindingSpeed.com, click on that, and join in whatever car you like. And I'm not aware whether your team name will show up at the moment unless you have previously registered. But by all means, please do feel free to pop by and take part, because we've still got a few places left on the grid. You can see the timing software struggling to file through everybody at the end of this practice session, and we're into the closing stages of this practice session, because it was a 70-minute practice of all things, not quite 60. We just decided to go for 70, so 1 hour and 10 minutes is how long people have had out on circuit, and you can see how busy the track has been. We can go all the way down to this one here. This is Tony Searle in the Ferrari, getting some heat in the tyres, weaving the car from left to right, just to see whether he can get a handle on this Le Mans circuit. And going into the closing stages of the 70-minute practice session, we've got a 20-minute qualifying session coming up as well. So not many laps you can fit in there. I'm guessing with it being all the better part of a 5-minute lap, and the first lap has obviously got to be your out lap, so it won't be timed. You're looking at about 3 timed laps if you're quick, possibly even 4 if you are really on the mark. But not much time to get your times in, really. But following that 20-minute practice session, add 100 minutes on top of that, because you've got then a 1 hour 20-minute, 120-minute or 2-hour race ahead. Hence the name, the 2 hours of LeMons. And we're definitely in for a treat, because I'm looking at a few of the entries. We've got plenty of guys that are well known on the Finding Speed channel. If you've ever popped by on one of the many streams which obviously Mr. Russell Barnes Finding Speed himself does. For example, we'll look at him now. Here he is in his Porsche. We were speaking to him before the race, or before the practice session. He struggled to get his livery working, so we are going to just have to look at him in that livery for the moment. I'm sure I might be able to do something about that during the stream. Speaking of well-known people from the stream, we've got this man here, Matthew Forrest, one of the virtual racing combat drivers, with his photo on show. I wasn't aware that his photo would show up. Skipping the second chicane on the Mulsanne straight. Just about gets it slowed down without collecting anybody else. Who else have we got? We've got Hugo Drouet, and he is a driver for the Fiercely Forward team. If you don't know, Russell Barnes, Mr. Finding Speed, he races also for the Fiercely Forward team. So Hugo, the one and only Fiercely Forward driver out on circuit at the moment, and I think that will be it for Fiercely Forward throughout. We've got Rob Lancaster, the second of the RPM Red drivers. Both of the RPM guys are in the Porsche 911s. And as far as I'm aware, I think that's all we've got at the moment out on circuit that we've seen on the stream so far. I'm just having a quick scan over the timing software. We've got Stein van Nylen for virtual reality racing, also sadly in one of the default Porsche liveries, which isn't what we were expecting to see. Please do let me know if the game is too loud or too quiet, because I know with this new X Audio 2, I can drown out the game quite easily. So what I'll do is I'll turn the game up a little bit, and then please do let me know whether that's too loud or too quiet. But you can just hear the pops, the bangs, and everything on the overrun going into the chicane. These Porsches do sound beautiful with the flat six engine screaming. There we go. That really is one of the best sounds. At the moment, I think we've got a track temp of about 18 degrees. We can bring up some weather for you on the right-hand side. So you can see the track temp is 18 degrees, so very cool. One of the coolest tracks I've ever seen on iRacing, in fact. So that means the track will be nice and grippy. And we are quite late in the, we are quite early on in the morning, 7:27 a.m. So the track will only get hotter during the race as well. Yes, it'll get rubbered in, but that also means if you're putting rubber down into the tarmac, you'll get marbles offline. And as soon as the track gets hotter as well, that just adds to how slippery this track will be. But it looks like everybody is keeping it under control at the moment. It's not like my timing screen has been coming alive with incidents. We've had a couple of off tracks here and there, but nothing major in terms of crashes. So it seems like it's going to be quite a forgiving circuit for everybody out today. We've got Yunus Amir Aker for Wings of Turkey. One of the more comedic names I saw while I was scrolling through the entry list and putting in all the numbers. I think what I'll do for you is I'll just give Trading Paints a quick refresh, in case that is one of the issues on why we're not seeing any liveries for these guys. So I'll just type it in and we'll get it back up. So the cars will momentarily go white, I think, and then they'll pop back to whichever livery Trading Paints can pick up from itself. As far as I'm aware, we did this before the session to great effect, but I'm not sure what has happened to all of the liveries. We've got 12 people watching now. Hello everybody, welcome along to the FindingSpeed.com channel. I'm Jack Werrell, your host for this evening. I commentated on the previous race as well, on the Road Atlanta community race. And you've got here for the third one. This is the third community race on the Finding Speed channel. And if you want to get involved, actually, yes, before we go any further, if you want to get involved, I've not mentioned it before, but for anybody who's just popped by, you can get involved. You just need to pop over to the iRacing.com website, if you have a membership, that is. If you have the LeMons circuit and one of the GTE cars, you are more than welcome to join. Just go over to Hosted, look through the hosted sessions until you find FindingSpeed.com community race. If not, filter it by name or by track. Go down to either FindingSpeed.com or Le Mans itself. Have a look through there, and as soon as you find it, just click join. Pick the car of your choice. You've got 4 cars that you can enter in: the Ferrari 488, the Porsche 911 RSR, the BMW M8, and the Ford GT. Get in one of those and hop in the session. You will be on stream, so please do your utmost to keep it in between the white lines. I know that is easier said than done there, but you can see the practice session has just ticked over to what will very quickly become qualifying. There we go. So we are now in qualifying. So a lot of the drivers that have left the session will now get filtered out. One of the names that did pop up was Frank Bieler in the practice session, and he managed to win his class, what I believe is 5 times around here in the Le Mans 24 Hours, and he's a DTM driver, and I think he had a brief spell in British touring cars as well, so he definitely knows what he's doing, and he topped the times in practice, but sadly I don't think he's with us for the race. We've got lots of drivers leaving the pits. This is Ramo Zweifel for FANATEC Autotech Sim Racing. and that really is a beautiful livery, and it seems like it's just going to be a homage of Porsches today. If I have a look down, who we got? We've got Pablo de la Vega. Who else have we got out in a Porsche? You can hear them screaming away. We've got Stein van Nylen, Matthias Butzkoffer, Rob Lancaster, Braden Coates, and these are all just Porsches, so it really just shows off how popular the Porsche is. The second most popular car, I was got to say, is the Ferrari. Not something you see that often out on circuit. Hugo Drouet being one of the drivers piloting the Ferrari around. Then probably the BMW, so we're looking at Nicholas Yarrington, and quite an eye-catching livery. It's almost quite sort of, it's sort of a dark top end of the car with the grey and black camouflage, but then you've got those real luminous lime green wheels, or almost yellow wheels on that BMW, so you can you won't be missing that in a hurry. And then finally we get onto the Ford. This is Joaquin Moreno Vidal in one of the few Porsches we've got out on circuit. I've just noticed this man we were just looking at, Nicholas Yarrington. I'll have to do a little bit of work in the background here, but I'm pretty sure he should be racing for the Lux Sim 24 esports team. So I'll just have a quick look through on the sign-up sheet, and if I can fix that, I will. Obviously, if you're watching at the moment, whether you're watching for a friend or you're a driver and you're deciding not to qualify, but something on the overlay is wrong, please do feel free to let me know, whether it's just a quick message in chat or you DM me on Discord. Speaking of Discord, there is a link that went into the YouTube chat a little while ago, but what I'll do is I will see if I can copy and paste that link back into the Discord, or back into the YouTube live stream chat. So if you do want to join the Finding Speed Discord, please do feel free. It's an ever-growing community. There's channels for everything, whether it be for different sims, different maybe rigs, literally anything, whether it be IRL cars, painting cars, making cars, anything like that. There is always a chat for you, and if there isn't, under the rare occasion, we do have an ideas for the server chat, so hop in there, let us know what you want to see, and we'll be more than happy to help. So please do feel free to do that. I'm still looking for that Discord link. I had it a moment ago, but somehow I've lost it, but I'll keep an eye on the timer screen as well, because we'll have a couple of drivers popping some times in. I'm just going to have a look around to see who the first driver will be to cross the line. I think it will be maybe this man here, Luke Toller. No, it won't. I am looking for the wrong number here. I think it'll be this man here, Salah Yulok, or Yolok, like me. I think he will be the first driver. Now I've still got it wrong. It will be Matthias Butzkoffer going through the Porsche curves in, believe it or not, a Porsche. If you couldn't hear it, screaming its way around. So he will be the first driver to go on to a flying lap. He's braking nice and early, so that doesn't look like he is going to go on to a lap. Whether he's just letting the car cool down, or he might be waiting for a little bit of draft. Or maybe he's seen a car leaving the pit lane, so he wants a bit of clean air. He's got back up to pace again now, though, in what is sort of a Gulf homage on that Porsche. Weaving his way through the Ford chicanes, punches the throttle, the car slides around the final corner, and drives across the line to go on to what will be his first flying lap of the session. 4 minutes of the session already gone. It really just shows off how long this circuit really is. But Matthias has now crossed the line to start his flying lap. We've got Alex Crater in one of the other Porsches crossing the line now, with slight bits of damage on that car already, so it looks like he's had a bit of rough and tumble on the outlap, but he's got it going. He's still got it going, and he is heading on to his flying lap. We've got Salih Yoluk going on to his, and pretty much everybody following now will be going on to theirs as well. Joaquin Moreno Vidal, he has just gone onto his in one of the only Fords out on the grid. Someone we've got to keep an eye on, though, is this man here, Hugo Drouet. He is one of the fiercely forward drivers, and he's only really going to go quicker from here because he's got the pace in a Formula 3 car, and I'm not sure how easy it is to negotiate your skills from a Formula 3 to a Ferrari, but I'm sure he'll give it a go. I'll just have a look around to see who else we've got up and down the field. So Hugo still just keeping it in between the white lines. You've got to take it nice and easy on an out lap. Obviously you want to make sure you get the car up to temperature, but don't overdrive the car, get some damage, because it's a very long rotation back round the circuit to get back out. a lot of drivers are doing this, going nice and slow into the final chicane, maybe just making the most of the run going into it, making sure they nail the first bit. There you go, he punches the throttle now, rides the curbs, gets it pointed where he needs to, using all the track. Clinical driving from Hugo, goes around the final corner, a great run around there, and starts his first of what I think will be 3 flying laps. So we'll keep an eye on Hugo. The overlay is looking rather empty at the moment, so please do excuse me. But it's just waiting for some drivers to post their first flying lap times, and the person leading the way around is still this man here, Matthias Butikofer. So he is in the number 79 machine. The team name, Moving Chicane Racing. So not something you see very often, but a moving chicane, that surely is sort of meaning that he's slow, but by the looks of it, he really isn't. He's posted a perfect sector 6 in theory, according to the timing software, so he's pushing on forward now. So it really just goes against his Moving Chicane team name. Who else have we got on circuit? We've got Chris Guillaume. For team No Idea. Behind him we saw a VRC, a virtual racing compound car. We'll have a look at him. I think that was Chris Roberts. It was indeed. Narrowly avoids the spinning car of Chris. So Chris avoids Chris. And Chris is going onto the back straight. Onto the Mulsanne. Is he though? He's slowing down nice and early. And he stops on the outside of Tetra Rouge and decides that that is not going to be his lap. So not sure what happened to him there. He's leaving the pit straight away, so I'm not sure what has happened to him. But Chris, one of the 2 VRC drivers we'll have out on circuit. We've got obviously Chris Roberts, who we're looking at the moment, and we will have Matt Forrest as well. Those 2 produce some great content over on their YouTube channel as well. We try and keep up with the special events, and they keep up with regular streams as well. They do it as and when they can. Both of them obviously got to commit to, or they've got other commitments outside of sim racing, but they do a great job of keeping up with it nonetheless. Speaking of special events though, obviously we're only a few weeks away from the official iRacing Le Mans 24 hours on the 20th and the 21st of June. We are currently on the 7th of June, so really not far away from that at all. Only about 2 weeks. So it's only going to get closer and closer as the days wear on. So I'm not sure whether Russell will be taking part in that, but he does have a kid expected around that time. So or getting into the closer stages of having a child. So I'm sure it won't be at the top of his priorities list. He's put on this amazing event for us. So massive thank you to Russell. Speaking of Russell, we'll go and have a look just to see how he's getting on. This is going down what I think is the second back straight, maybe going into Indianapolis. No, this is going into at the end of the Mulsanne straight into the very quick right-hander, gets it turned in, uses all the track on the exit. Great line through there by Russell. I'm sure he knows what he's doing though with all his track guides. So if you are watching and you are not aware of what I'm talking about, Russell Barnes, the man we're looking at, Mr. Finding Speed, he does track guides and various regular streams as well on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays as and when he can. But the track guides, like I mentioned, he's done the BMW 12 track guide in, I think that was 2 seasons ago. Last season he did IMSA, and I think next season he's doing the IMSA Pilot Challenge in the BMW, as far as I'm aware, so that will be a great watch as well. The BMW obviously being one of the latest updates to the iRacing service, so it'll be great to see whether he can get a handle on that. We saw him, whether you caught it or not, on the stream a couple of days ago, him just getting in the car for the first time, and it certainly looked like he enjoyed it. So please do subscribe and turn the little notification bell on just to keep up with the regular streams, videos, and whatever else Russell decides to have on his channel. Well, not much for having on his channel here. He's going sideways through the Porsche curves, over rotates the car, takes chunks out of the grass, gets it back going again, drags all the grass across the circuit for everybody else to enjoy, but gets it back going again. No damage received from that. But we'll have a look just to see who we've got out on the moment. Braden Coates is our current provisional pole sitter. He's set a lap time. He's done a 3 minute 49.48, so that has put him on pole position by 0.3 of a second. He's shortly followed by Alex Crater for Team Dusty Martini Racing, also in a Porsche. And then There's another Porsche behind them of Remo Zweifel for FAC Autotech Racing 998. And then we go back to, let's just say we've got a fair few Porsches out. We've got Rob Lancaster for RPM Red in provisional P4, Stein van Nylen for Virtual Reality Racing in P5, James McIntosh, I believe, or McIntosh, he is provisional P6 at the moment. Matthias Butikoffer, he has gone back into the pit lane, but he is provisional P7 after setting his lap time. Steve Hannon for Lux Sim 24 Esports, he is in P8. And then we finally get to something that isn't a BMW, it's Nicholas Yarrington. Well, I was going to say he's in P9, but he's just been demoted down into P10 because Alexander Koenig, pardon me, has set a 3-minute 54.48 and has got himself into P7. We've got the times coming in thick and fast now because we've just had Vincent Leisha post a 4-minute 02.70. The only driver at the moment in the 4-minute 02s. That really just shows off the sort of diversity of the iRacing network, because this is an open hosted session, which obviously means anybody can join, including you. So if you do want to join, we are only 10 minutes or 11, well, it's still ticking over, 12 minutes into the 20-minute qualifying session. So not long for you left to join. But if you do want to join, go onto the iRacing.com website. If you have a membership, hop onto the hosted tab, scroll down to findingspeed.com, click on the drive icon, pick a car of your choice. It's got to be in the GT3 class, and then feel free to hit the track and show us what you're made of. You will be on the stream as well, so it'll be good to see what you can bring along to the tow. We just, in that previous camera angle, see the length of the straight. It just shows off how long the straight is, and obviously with a camera angle like this, you can see the undulation. You think the straight's straight, it doesn't really do much, but it really does. You can see the track going up and down, going into the chicane. There's even a couple of feet worth of elevation change in there as well. So somewhere where you don't necessarily feel it, but you definitely see it as you're looking on the TV camera. You can see them just going up the hill now out of that chicane. So bits of undulation here, there, and everywhere. But everybody's posting some times in now. We've got a couple of guys coming around to post a lap. I'm hoping Salah Yoluk posts time this time by. He didn't do it on the lap prior, but he's still moving forward, so we'll see what he can do on this time. I'm sure we can get some drivers in for interviews very, very shortly as well, just before we get onto the race. But Salah Yoluk will stick with him just for the moment, just to see what he can do, weaving his way through the forward chicanes nice and cautiously. Does he cross the line and set a time this time going through? We'll keep an eye on him. He doesn't, so not sure what happened to Salah. Who else have we got on circuit? We've got this man here, Chris Roberts, for the Virtual Racing Compound team. Speaking of Virtual Racing Compound, we'll drag in the other driver. So Matt Forrest, welcome to the box.
Hi Jack, you alright mate?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. What's your plan for this race? Because it's a 2-hour race, and obviously you've entered a team of 2 drivers, so is that something you're going to play around with during the race, or are you just going to go on a set strategy, pit halfway through and see where it leaves you?
We don't actually know yet. We're trying to work out whether a set strategy is actually viable at the moment. It's touch and go, depending on what time other people are doing, obviously. So we may end up, after the first few laps, we'll know whether or not we can do a one-stopper versus a 2. I think it's going to have to be the odds are it's going to be a 2-stopper the most, especially with the times they're doing now, if they're going to go anywhere near those. So we'll see.
Yeah, obviously, I'm not sure whether this is a purposeful plan by you and Chris, but Chris hasn't set a lap time yet, and he's only in theory got 1.5, maybe 2 laps left of the qualifying session. Are you going to try and qualify, or is this something with strategy which you're not comfortable to tell us? You're just going to work your way around the strategy as it comes?
This is just Chris being Chris. If you jump into his channel now, he'll just crash.
I'm sure he will, because I know what he's like. He always tries to blame me for talking over him and losing concentration, but he can't blame me this time unless he's got the stream running in the background. Yeah, like you said, it's just Chris being Chris. But it's a 2-hour race. So what is your plan? Because it's not like the 24s where you've got to go in and just try and survive. Are you going to sort of limit your aggression as the race goes on, and then towards the end just start pushing that extra bit, or is it literally, like I've said before, just something you're going to sort of highlight as it comes?
I think we're going to aim for one stop. As you see, Chris has already just gone past. He's not going to set a lap at this rate. He's just dropped out yet again. So I'm struggling to figure out what he's actually doing.
Well, if you're struggling, mate, I will let you obviously go back to find out what your teammate's doing.
No, it's fine. I've just left him to it. So the reality is we'd like to do a one-stopper if we can, which means obviously we're going to have to turn the engine mapping down and lift and coast for a while. Round LeMons, I think the draft's quite powerful on the straight, so we might be okay. If not, well, as I say, we'll probably know in a few laps, and then he'll just turn the wick up and then go. Obviously, we don't want to be starting at the back if we can help it, but this is LeMons, and the first couple of corners, people seem to go slightly nuts.
Yeah, it's quite a twisty sort of first sector, and then obviously the second and almost third sector is just straight. So there's plenty of overtaking opportunities for you and everybody else.
But I mean, we know where we want to be. I think lap times, I think we want to be roughly running 356s in race pace, 356, 357. I think it's roughly going to be about 15 to 16 laps per stint. If you run at those kind of times, if you're running quicker, obviously you're going to use more fuel. So it'll be a conscious decision after about 4 or 5 laps as to whether or not we bin the strategy and go straight for a two-stopper. And then you can turn the wick up on the car.
That's good to know, mate. I will
catch up.
Yeah, that's really good to know. I will keep an eye out for you during that sort of time frame to see what you do. But while I've got you in the box, is there anybody you'd like to thank, shout out? I'm sure we'll drag you back in, but just in case, is there anybody you'd like to?
Anyway. Oh yeah, obviously yourself for giving up your time, mate, for doing some of this, and obviously for Russell for putting it on. These community events are what make iRacing iRacing. I think everyone always worries about iRating and safety rating, but it's all about fun at the end of the day.
It really is, and I'm sure we're not going to be short of it at all. But other than that, thank you very much for joining me in the box, and I guess we'll see you very shortly.
Yeah, you will. Cheers.
See ya. That was Mr. Matt Forrest, the second driver for the virtual racing compound team. But what we will do while we've got somebody in the chat or in the waiting room, we're going to bring in the man himself who has kindly lent me his channel for the evening, Mr. Finding Speed, Russell Barnes. How you doing, mate?
Hi, Jack. Yeah, all good, man. All good, man. How's it going?
It's going all right. We've got a lot of drivers posting times. It's nicely popular as well, because the Road Atlanta, obviously we struggled for a bit of a turnout, but we've already got 20 cars already posted a qualifying time. And
that's awesome.
Chris Roberts, well, I hope he doesn't watch this, but Chris Roberts hasn't even set one yet. So we're going to see.
I nearly didn't, to be honest, mate. I nearly didn't. But I just want to say really quickly, because the race is about to start, and I still need to go to the loo. I'm bursting. So I don't want to sit through 2 hours, like, crossing my legs. But I just want to say massive thank you to you for doing the broadcast and the commentary. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Big shout out to Robert Lancaster for helping with the organisation and was a great sounding board when we were setting things up. And thanks to everyone that's come along to race and is watching at home. If you're watching and you would like to join next time, come along. It's great. We've got drivers of all standards. And I think we tend to have a pretty good time at our community races. So yeah, it's all good fun.
It really is, and no problem at all for doing it. It's great to watch, and it fills me up for an evening as well, because I just get to watch cars drive around in circles for a couple of hours. So it's sort of my idea of heaven. But I'm sure we'll speak to you after the race as well. So I'll let you run off to the loo. But other than that, thank you very much for joining me in the box, and good luck.
Nice one. Cheers, Jack. Thanks all.
That was Mr. Russell Barnes, and sorry about the Discord noises in the background. I've just realised it hasn't decided to put me on the streamer mode, so it mutes itself. So sorry about that, but now we won't have any more Discord noises whittling away in the background. But like you mentioned, we are going into the closing stages of this qualifying session. You can see the checkered flag's out now. So, the checkered flag is out now, so anybody still setting a time or anybody still out on circuit will have to make sure they get this session or they get this lap nailed, because they won't have another opportunity after this one. I've just noticed something I will have to change on the overlay, so you'll have to bear with me a moment. It's just so if a driver goes off track, you may have seen that it pops up yellow, and that's a little too garish for me. I've just set it so it'll pop up grey, so it's not something that's straight in your face. So you will be able to see who's going off track and when. So if you know when to expect a replay, because obviously we do have that that ability to show you a replay in this amazing SDK gaming software. So it really is great fun. Got Lily Empire saying those Discord noises made me keep checking mine. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I did notice that as I dragged people in, it kept on popping in and out. So sorry about that. But I do hope you're enjoying the stream. Billy Fletcher saying, going to have fun starting at the rear. And I'm sure you will. You'll be joined by quite a few of the other guys as well, because there's lots of people that haven't set a qualifying time. We've got Chris Roberts still out on circuit, but he won't set a qualifying time, as this is, in theory, his outlap. We've got Rafael Rodriguez. He hasn't set a qualifying time yet, and this is his outlap as well in one of the other yellow Ferraris. So I don't think he will get the get a qualifying time in either. We've got a Ford following him through. I think that may be Billy Fletcher. It is indeed. His livery has now loaded, so a great livery for the Lux Sim 24 esports driver. So I don't think he will get a time done either. This isn't his outlap. This is in theory a timed lap. So he's got in the draft of Rafael. So I'm sure this will be helping him to know. And he looks to the inside going into Indianapolis. I don't think that's probably the bravest move if you're going onto a qualifying lap, but he gets the move done well before. And it looks like Rafael pulled out of the move very nicely for him. So working the way through Indianapolis nice and cleanly. And going into Arnage, this is where it's all key, because once again, it's another straight that you've really got to make sure you nail the exit. He winds his way through in between the wall. Rafael almost getting acquainted with the tyre wall. But Billy doing everything he needs to. What I'll do is we can treat ourselves to a little onboard final sector from Billy Fletcher. So what I'll do is I'll leave you with the beautiful noise of this Ford GT while I just quickly go and get a refreshment. Back in a moment. Right, and just as I get back, Billy Fletcher decides this is going to be the end of his session. I don't think he crossed the line, but Stein van Nielen crosses the line. He doesn't improve upon what was his original time. Rafael Rodriguez decides to throw it into turn one. Chris Roberts, did he set a time towards the end of the session? He does indeed. He promotes himself all the way up into P10. So a great job from Chris Roberts. He managed to set a 3-minute 53.55. So a great job from Chris. Only 800 ahead of Pablo de la Vega behind. So he has managed to get a very last minute qualifying time in, but that obviously means that is the end of the session. So a 20-minute session turned into a 25-minute session. And we will very shortly have the grid for you as soon as you see that qualifying icon in the top left. Swap over to the race, just waiting for the sessions to overlap each other. You can see a bit of heat haze on that Dunlop bridge up there, and I'm not sure why, because it definitely isn't a hot session. If we have a look, we can get an update on the temperatures. Only 18 degrees air temperature and 18 degrees track temperature, so the track is nice and cool. As we swap over to the race session, I will keep an eye on that in case the race session is obviously different from what we had in practice. I don't think we've still got a car out on circuit. We've got Chris Guillaume in the pit lane, but that's a great camera angle. Thank you very much. There he is. But I don't think he will be the one that's not allowing the session to proceed. The session's still ticking through, gone past the 25-minute mark, so I'm not sure what's happened here. But I'm sure we will be into the race session very, very shortly. What I'll do is I'll get some music on in the background. There we go, just to break the silence a little bit. But if you are only just joining us, the 21 people currently watching, welcome along to the FindingSpeed.com channel. You are joining me in the commentary box, Jack Werrell, here at the beautiful Le Mans Circuit de la Sarthe for the third community race. There is the session ticking over, so what I'll do is I'll very quickly run you through the grid, or what we have so far. So what I'll do is, there we go. As soon as we click onto grid, we should have some grid for you. We do indeed. So Braden Coates with a 3-minute 49.476 manages to grab pole position ahead of Alex Crater in P2. Hugo Jouret and Remo Zweifel round out row 2. Yunus Amir Aker and Nathan Richardson row 3. Russell Barnes, Mr. Finding Speed himself, starts in P7, followed by Rob Lancaster. Salah Yoluk and Chris Roberts round out the top 10. Pablo Vega and Stein van Nylen round out the top 12, pardon me. Miguel Schneigel and James McIntosh, P13 and 14. Joaquin Vidal, Alexander Cohen, Matthias Butekofer, Hector Castello, Simon Chester, Yannick Delhates, pardon me, Luke Towler, Steve Hannon, Nicholas Yarrington and Vincent Vega are going to round out the top 12 rows. Jan Corbs, Billy Fletcher, Manos Kaspis, David Butel, Andrew Parker, Brandon Harrison, Peter Plasto, Troy Banks, Gonzalo Aviles, Samuel Gonzalez, Chris Guillaume and Frank Hutan. And we are already at P36, so it really just shows off how big the grid is. We've still got another few to go through as well. Rafael Rodriguez, Frank Bieler. I'm not sure whether he's in the session, if I'm honest. I think Frank Bieler is the last person not to be on the grid, but Rafael Rodriguez is. So 37 cars line up on the grid. So what I'll do is I'll shut the music up, because I'm very sure we're going to end up with some drivers about to start. So we'll look at Braden Coates when it decides to find him. There we go. So you can see how big the grid is. Can we get a better camera angle on that? There we go. So 37 drivers on the grid for the start of a 2-hour race. So plenty of racing still to look forward to. If you're only popping by, welcome along. Please don't hesitate to subscribe to the FindingSpeed.com channel. You really won't regret it if you put that notification bell on. It will probably light up your phone most days. We've got streams coming on Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday, and obviously all the video content in between, whether it be track guides, rig guides, anything like that. I'm sure Russell will have a look at it as well. But we've got Braden Coates desperately weaving to get some heat built up into his wheels and tyres. And obviously pole position is where you need to be going into turn 1, but whether that will last, because Alex Crater in P2 will obviously have that draft assistance going down the very long Mulsanne straight. So we'll have to keep an eye on what happens and what sort of effect draft has on these Porsches. Obviously the top 2 are Porsches. Then Hugo Jouret in one of the first Ferraris lines up P3, and Remo Zweifel in another Porsche rounds up in P4. So these guys will have their hands full for 2 hours of close door-to-door racing, without a doubt. And obviously we still have Mr. Russell Barnes nicking away in that order somewhere as well. Where is he? There he is. So Mr. Finding Speed himself, he will be seeing what he can do. You can see the VRC car rolling into the shot at the bottom. There is Chris Roberts here. The jet's flying over, so that really doesn't mean we are far away from the start of the race at all now. So working their way through the final little section of Porsche curves on the run up to the pit entry. Everybody's still weaving desperately to get every little bit of heat into their tyres, because they'll need it. Obviously there will be a pit stop as well, maybe even 2 for these guys. It will be a struggle to get a full hour out of your fuel tank, but we'll see what we can do. So the FindingSpeed.com 2 hours of LeMons. Obviously this is the 3rd community race on the Finding Speed channel, but the FindingSpeed.com 2 hours of LeMons is away. Braden Coates punches the throttle to cross the line for the first time. Alex Crater following alongside. He looks to the outside going into turn 1. This is going to be a very early move for Alex Crater, because the camera's slightly blocked by all of the fog we've got from the jets flying over, but Alex Crater sadly loses out going into turn 1. He's quite late on the brakes, still keeps his nose there, cuts the track a little bit. That could even be a slowdown. We'll see what he does going into the first sector, but Alex Crater still following up. We've got Rob Lancaster dropping down the order. I can't keep up with it. People are dropping down the order so quickly. I don't even think my timing software can keep up with it. Hugo Drouet still in P3. Janis Amir Akker in P4. Nathan Richardson dropping down to P6 as Remo Zweifel works his way around the outside and going into Tetra Rouge. They're still side by side. That's Russell Barnes seeing what he can do about disposing of Nathan Richardson as well. Hugo Drouet dropping down the order. That could be a slowdown. We'll see what Hugo is doing. He's dropped to the inside and he is very slow indeed. The car's bouncing around a lot on that bumpy surface on the right, so whether he's got damage or he's just got to slow down, we've still got cars dropping down the order. Rob Lancaster, the biggest mover at the moment, but sadly negative 12 positions, so he's lost 12 from where he started. It doesn't look like he's got much damage on that car, so I'll keep an eye out just to see what happened there. It doesn't look like we've got much going on the timing screen. Actually, what we'll do is we'll get a replay. So apparently Billy Fletcher had an incident. Not sure what happened to Billy going into turn 1. What happens here? Does he get collected from behind? He doesn't. Oh, yes, he does get collected from behind, gets scooped up by the Porsche. It's very much a domino effect from there. Keeps it hard on the brakes. Somebody comes along and collects him. I think that's the 24 car. So I can't quite put my finger on who that is at the moment. But Alex Crater sadly losing out, gets the car pointed the right way again. We'll go back live with him just to see how he's doing. He's all the way down in P35 now, going back down the Mulsanne straight, but we'll go back to the leader, Braden Coates. What a lead he's already got. 1.7 seconds. You see the battle getting ever closer in the rearview mirror. That's Alex Crater coming under pressure from Janis Amir Akker. Janis has got to go the long way around. He's on the outside going down the Mulsanne straight. Can he get the move done going into the very, very sharp right-hander? You can see Hugo Drouet under pressure as well from Chris Roberts behind. So those guys are getting ever closer. Hugo jumps across the nose. We'll go back to the battle here. Does Eunice get the move done? He does indeed, round the outside, easily done on the brakes. Going into the right-hander, punches the throttle and confirms the move has been made. Hugo Drouet still under pressure from the chasing Chris Roberts, but Chris will also have to keep an eye on his mirrors because he's got Pablo de la Vega just behind as well. And also in draft range of these lot is Miguel Schneigel. But the leaders are still close. This is Alex Crater putting on a reverse charge from Eunice. So let's see what Eunice can do about it. Going into Indianapolis, he brakes nice and early, pulls out of the move and just lets Alex take the position. So Alex now promoted himself back up into second position, but Eunice has gained 2 positions from where he started, so he is doing what he can to work his way back up the order. We were saying these guys are getting closer, but the 2 black Porsche 911s there, number 43 and number 34, Miguel Schneigel and Pablo de la Vega have swapped positions, so now Chris has got somebody else to deal with behind him, and he's just dropped off the tail of Hugo Drouet to quite a margin now. That could be because Hugo has got the draft assistance from Russell Barnes. He's almost right back under the rear wing as well, and Russell is doing what he can to get past Remo Zweifel for P4. We've had an issue for Steve Hannon a little further down the order, so we'll have a look to see what happens to him going into Indianapolis. Did he overcook it on the brakes? Doesn't look like he's going quite hot in. He over-rotates the car on the brakes. That's very close for the Lux 24 esports machine. So Steve Hannon rotating the car through 90 degrees. We'll go back live with him just to see how he's doing. He's got it back going again. No major issue for him. We've had a change a little further up. That's Hugo Drouet. Almost working his way past Russell Barnes, but Russell keeping his nose just ahead. Alex Crater built out quite a nice little margin to Eunice there, but Hugo has managed to get past Russell Barnes this time by. It looks like Russell might have a slowdown there. Really not what he wanted. You hear the car bouncing off the rev limiter, so whether that is just his way of slowing it down. We just had Braden Coates post a purple time at 1 minute 58.16, so a great job from Hugo, and Russell really is losing the positions now. He's almost come to a complete standstill. Dropped his way right the way back down to what is now P8. So Nathan Richardson, Remo Zweifel and Chris Roberts have all worked their way past now. So Chris has gained 5 positions from where he started, gone from P10 all the way up to P5 so far. Just looking a little further down the order, I can't decide a battle to pick on. We'll go to this man here. This is Jan Korbs coming under pressure from Brandon Harrison. Brandon working his way around the outside. He looks like he might lose out to Matthias Butzkofer. Matthias looks to the inside going into Tetra Rouge. Can't quite get the move done, but he's now got the long straight to deal with as well. So Matthias will be in the draft. But the very, very quick Manos Kaspas is coming up on him as well. And he's got the attentions of Peter Plasto behind for Team GB. So Peter Plasto is not quite as close as Manos is to Matthias. going into the first chicane. Does Manos have a little look? You can see the train of cars up ahead. Manos does look. He's filling his mirrors. Decides to pull back into the draft by the looks of it. I don't think he's going to get the move done. Matthias does go defensive going into the first chicane. Just make sure he cuts off the position. And Matthias manages to hold on to P19. We've got battles going on everywhere. Brandon Harrison is working his way up the order. We've got a car off. I think that is commentator's curse for you. Was that Simon? It wasn't. That was Matthias Butikofer. It was. That is commentator's curse for you. We were looking at him. As soon as I clicked away, he fired it into the barrier. So that really won't be what he was looking for. He's now lost 7 positions from where he started. People making the most of that was Samuel Villa-Gonzalez, Luke Towler, Yannick Delhez, Peter Plasto, Manos Kaspis. And that obviously means that Simon Chester just disappears a little further away into the distance. But he's got Jan Korbs ahead as well in the original fight in the Ford. Brandon Harrison still disappearing away into the distance. Apparently his team name is Test. I'll see if I can get that changed. But Rob Lancaster is leading this as well. Well, I say that, but he's very, very quickly dragging everybody along with him to Joaquin Moreno Vidal. We've got a change of position a little further back. That's Brandon Harrison losing out to Jan Korbs on the brakes. We just caught the latter part of that move. So Jan Korbs now in P16 at the end of the Mulsanne Straight. And I've got to say, this top 5 battle, or top 10 battle, is getting ever closer. Chris Roberts defending as hard as he can from Remo Zweifel. Remo is dragging Nathan Richardson, pardon me, and Russell Barnes with him as well. Chris Roberts dropping down. That's Hugo Drouet losing out massively there. So Hugo is dropped right the way down into P8. Russell Barnes makes the most of that, gets himself into P7. Nathan Richardson, P6. Remo Zweifel in P5. And now Chris Roberts. That means he's all the way up in P4. So gained 6 positions from where he lined up on the grid in P10. The next target for him is 8 seconds up the road. This is Jonas Amiraka. But speaking about up the road, the 2 leaders are getting nice and close. This is Alex Crater getting cozy with Braden Coates. But sorry, that's not those two. I'm getting confused between my black Porsches. But Yunus Amir Aker is getting really close to Alex Crater. So those two have separated but come back together again. And obviously you can see Braden Coates just a little bit further up the road, still leading the way in P1. But doing a great job so far. We'll see who else we've got a little further down. Lily Empire saying that commentator's curse, I love it. Well, I'm sure you do, and I guess it does add to the action, but I'm guessing a lot of the drivers don't. It's not the nicest thing to fall foul of. Here's Russell Barnes, still under pressure from Hugo Drouet, but he's pushing forward. You can hear the cars rumbling over what is commonly known as the rumble strip for obvious reasons. Nathan Richardson is being chased by Russell Barnes. Remo Zweifel is ahead. Chris Roberts is just about still in P4. Remo looking for the move going into the first sector. Got Troy Banks dropping down the order. Not sure what happened to Troy. He's decided to go back to the pit lane. So I will have a look. He said he went off track. So we'll have a look at the replay. Going through the Porsche curves. What does he do? I know it's quite hard to keep the car balanced. It's very sideways through there. Does he collect the wall? Just a little tap on the wall. So nothing major there. It's got a bit of aero damage by the looks of it on the rear diffuser, and I'm sure he's got a bit of floor damage on the side. Does he fall foul of a left-hander here at the Porsche curves? He does. That's a massive moment. Very sideways. Does he get collected by anybody else? I can't really see a reason why he would return to the pits for that. The American clearly not happy with his performance so far. Rob Lancaster, what a camera angle that is. It really just shows off the speed. But Rob Lancaster is now leading Jan Korbs, but Jan not letting him get away. Followed suit by another Ford. This is Joaquin Moreno Vidal. But Joaquin looking, he's got the best seat in the house because Jan Korbs has just got the move done going into the first chicane of the Mulsanne Straight late on the brakes. Rob Lancaster falls foul of what is probably going to be one of the most common overtaking opportunities of the night. So Rob now down into P15. I really don't know where to look. These guys are getting really, really close. 3 wide down the Mulsanne Straight. That's Hugo Drouet going from what was P6 to P5. He's now spun going out of the second chicane. That's really rotten luck for Hugo. He went from P7 to P5 and all the way down to P8. So a really mixed lap for Hugo. He's going to lose out again now in P9, possibly even P10 if Hector Calvo Castello has got anything to do with it. Russell Barnes now back up into P6. So Russell once again back in with this pack. Nathan Richardson just ahead of him. He looks to the inside going into the right-hander at the end of the Mulsanne. So now got a 4-car battle for what is P4, and it's all 911s. Nathan Richardson still leading Russell Barnes, but Russell's getting ever closer. What we'll do is we'll get a nice little camera angle from this. Russell Barnes is alongside. We won't even see him here. Maybe on the roll bar. No, definitely not. So I wanted to get a nice little camera angle for you, but Russell Barnes has got the move done already, and that's Nathan Richardson going all the way from P5 right the way down to P7 just because of the draft. So Chris Roberts followed Russell Barnes through there. So Chris now back down into P6. He's literally been pretty much everywhere in the top 5 or in the top 10 at the moment. So Chris Roberts doing a great job. I love that livery on that VRC car. Beautiful spec map with the matte black and the metallic white and red flashes throughout. For Chris Roberts, we didn't see much of him in qualifying. We saw him post a very, very late lap time, which got him up to P10. He's clearly making the most of what was a beautiful qualifying lap because he started P10 and he's working ever forward here. Nathan Richardson, he's still there following them, and here is the recovering Hugo Drouet. He's got back up into P8 and got past Pablo de la Vega. We've had an incident for Andrew Parker, multiple incidents for Andrew Parker, so we'll have a look to see what happened to the driver from Florida. In the monster car. Oh, he gets collected by, I'm not sure who that was. We'll have a look back. Actually, let's watch that again just to see what happened. So the number 83 machine going into the right-hander at the end of the straight. I can't quite see what number that is. I think that is possibly number 42. That could be Manos Kaspers. It's not. So I'm just going to stop guessing now. I'm not sure what happened to him there, but that's rotten luck for Andrew Parker. Another incident for Andrew Parker. So, oh, it's just the same incident. It's decided to repeat itself. So, yeah, just watching back again. There's the Pink Pig, or commonly known as the Pink Pig, the Porsche in the background. Oh, he loops it through 90 degrees again. Great save from him. Keeps it pointing the right way, dragging gravel onto the circuit. So that will be a nice surprise for anybody who's going to go through there at a rapid rate and not on the coming laps. But we're looking at Manos Kaspers now in one of the Ferraris, followed by another one. These two have been glued together for a little while. This is Manos Kaspers and Peter Plastow in the Team GB Ferrari 488. A little lock-up from Manos there. You see the spit of smoke come firing out of the front right of the car. A bit of damage there as well, so that won't be helping him. Peter gets the best run of the two going out of there, going down the hill into the very long sweeping S's section. Doesn't look like Peter gets the best run through there. We've got oh, that's a couple of cars spinning. That was Billy Fletcher, I think. No, it wasn't. That was Rob Lancaster. He was right the way up in the top of the order and sadly lost out to I'm not sure what happened there. Actually, let's have a look back to see what happened. So Rob Lancaster went off track. Here we go. Let's see what happened to Rob. So going through the first section, grabs the grass, and that just rotates the car very, very quickly through 180 degrees. Ends up on the gravel, tries to grab a gear. There we go, traction control stopping him, and there is the very quick Peter Plastow following him throughout. I actually think that was Manos. That was Manos at the time. But that means that this man here, Luke Towler, no longer has any massive danger coming from behind. It's just the next car behind is Peter Plastow. He's been there the entire race. He's being hounded by Billy Fletcher in the Luxim 24 Esports 4 GT, the number 388. So Billy working his way back up through the order. He's gained 8 positions from where he started. He's only getting ever closer on the Mulsanne straight. He jinks out of the draft going into the second chicane. Late on the brakes were blocked by a sign. It looks like he's got the move done already. He has indeed. So Billy doing a great job of getting a textbook overtake done going into the chicane and has gained yet another position. Lead is getting nice and close. This means Alex Crater has now inherited the lead from Braden Coates, so I'm not sure what's happened here. I'll see what happened if I can find the actual overtake, but I really can't find it for the life of me at the moment. So we are looking for Alex Crater overtaking Braden Coates. So here is the previous overtake. So this is Braden Coates once again overtaking Alex Crater. So Alex has got the move done already. Here we go. Here's the initial overtake. So going down the start-finish straight, Braden was giving the draft assistance to Alex Crater. Alex gets the move done on the brakes, and then they swap positions once again, and they've swapped back once again. So Alex Crater now in the lead, so leading the pack from the front at the moment. Braden Coates not letting him get away with it at all. So now we can use this camera angle. You can see just the speed going through these sweeping Porsche curves. Braden Coates doing what he can to make amends for that lost position. Obviously, he will have the draft assistance this time by. Only 15 minutes of the race gone. We've still got 1 hour 45 to go, so plenty of action to pack in. I'm sure Braden Coates won't have that in his mind. He'll just be wanting to make sure he gets the best run out of here, and he really does, going on to the start-finish straight. But it looks like Alex just slid the car through that tiny bit quicker, so Braden can't quite get the draft assistance to what he was expecting. Going into turn 1, he is gaining on Alex Crater, but I don't think he's decided to pull out of the move. You heard him lift off going through there over the humps of turns 2 and 3 under the Dunlop Bridge. These two will be getting nice and acquainted with each other in the next coming laps, I'm very sure. But Braden Coates just keeping an eye on Alex Crater, making sure it doesn't disappear too far into the distance. That is always the danger. We've still got 3 cars nice and close. This is Remo's Vehicle in P5 at the moment, followed by Chris Roberts, who's dropped back a little bit, and he's now falling into the hands of Nathan Richardson. So Nathan will almost be within striking distance on the Mulsanne straight. But while all this is happening, this means Russell Barnes is slowly disappearing into the distance and running away from that battle. Chris Roberts, I said he was nearly in striking distance, but going into Tetra Rouge, it looks like he lost out straight away to Nathan Richardson. So Nathan now in P6 and has swapped around with Chris Roberts, but that does mean Chris will be in the draft. But I don't think he is close enough for a move this time by. Coming out of the second chicane, it could be on the cards maybe. But Nathan still just about hanging on to P6 and the number 911. Luke Towler dropping down the order. There he is. He looks like he's lost it going out of the first chicane. So not sure what happened to Luke Towler. He lost out to James McIntosh there, or McIntosh, pardon me. So James now into P11, Hector Calvo Costello, P12. So those guys making the most of a dire situation for somebody else. Billy Fletcher is side by side going into the first chicane with, that was Joaquin Moreno Vidal. So Billy Fletcher just about getting the move done and has now got himself all the way up into P11. The leaders was for a little while there. That could just be one of them blinking on my timing screen. No, that's Braden Coates dropping right the way down the order. What's happened to Braden? He's backwards with heavy damage on that Porsche 911. So I don't know what's happened to Braden. Apparently he crashed. Here we go. We'll get a view. They're getting ever closer. Nudge, nudge, nudge. And that's a massive hit for Braden Coates. Just as the Armco dips away into the side, he does end up collecting Yunus Amir Ecker as well. So that's really not what we wanted to see. That's a horrible incident for Braden Coates. So we'll go back live with him just to see how he's doing. He's now down into P6 in a very, very second-hand looking Porsche 911. Bits of bodywork jinking out here, there and everywhere. Chris Roberts making the most of the draft, or what he can get, just to get that upper hand over Hugo Drouet. But Hugo is still working his way back up. We've got an incident for Hector Calvo Costello going into the right-hander at the bottom of the Mulsanne. Does he lock a brake, or does he just over-rotate it? He's going in very, very hard. Does a bit of rally cross over the gravel. Big hit into the wall. Thankfully, the engine isn't in the front, but he decides that is going to be the end of his race. Whether he's got a fast repair or not, I'm not 100% sure. But, oh no, that's Russell Barnes going backwards at the end of the Indianapolis section. We'll get a replay of that side by side with, I think that was Remo's Vehicle. He over-rotates the car. We've seen that happen before, and Remo does pretty much exactly the same. Just gives him that extra little tap there to rotate him through 180 degrees. Tries to get it pointed the right way again. Puts his foot to the floor any moment now as soon as he gets a gap in the traffic. Just that now just about gets across the track in time before getting collected by some traffic. But that's demoted him right the way down into P12, and that means that these two are getting nice and cozy as well. So Hugo Drouet has gone from P7 to P4 in one lap, but the original aggressor, Remo's Vehicle, is now in P5, and Chris Roberts is still following this that duo to make it a trio in P6. So he hasn't gained anything out of this just as yet, but we did speak to the second driver of VRC before the race started, saying that they don't really have a strategy going into this. They're just going to play it by ear and decide what they do as it comes to them. We've got our P2 driver, Yunus Amir Akir, in the pit lane. So there's no doubt he will drop down into the mid-teens. Whether it's a drive-through penalty, it is, and he's going into his pit box. So this could be very early strategy, but it will mean he has to pit again. He has got quite a bit of damage on the car, obviously, because he got collected by the spinning, can't remember who it was. It was Braden Coates that's managed to collect him on the back straight. So he's dropping right the way down the order. Russell Barnes works his way past. It's got a slight bit of damage on that rear left corner. Samuel Seedhouse asking, do I know the track temperature? What I can do is I can show it for you on the right hand side. So 18 degrees at the moment. And 18 degrees air temp as well. So nice and cool for you, mate. Welcome along to the stream. I'm not sure whether you're out on circuit at any point this evening. But I'm guessing you may be. Where is Coates? That's a great question. I'll have a look down the order just to see where he is. Braden Coates, he is in the pit lane, and I'm not sure whether he's got a fast repair because he's still waiting for all the repairs to go on. So he's currently in 30th position at the moment, Lily. We'll keep an eye on him though, just to see whether he gets back out on onto the circuit. Vincent Leisha was the last car to pass him, and he passed him almost 20 seconds ago now. So Braden has left the session, in fact, so I don't think we'll see Braden back out on the circuit at any point today, which is a real shame. I know he is still in the session. It's just my timing screen deciding to have a fit, because what he was is he was a lap ahead of some of the drivers. He is leaving the pits once again, so Lily, your wishes come true. So Lily now in, pardon me, Braden Coates now in P25. So he has got a very big recovery drive on his hands. The next car ahead of him is Yannick Delhez in the Discar iRacing machine. So it will be Porsche on BMW very, very shortly. We'll go back up to one of the leading battles. This is for P8 at the moment, or P9, pardon me. This is Jan Korb's. No, this is Russell Barnes, very, very close to the tail end of Jan Korb's. I couldn't really see him there. It's two cars turned into one. Russell Barnes is on the inside. He's got the preferred line on the brakes. You can see the damage on that car there, but he looks like he gets the move done. Jan was looking for the cutback, but that's really not the corner to get it done. So Russell gaining a position there, but you can see Jan very, very quickly gaining on Russell Barnes. We'll look back from Russell. We'll also get a great soundtrack from the Flat 6 Porsche 911 RSR. So I don't think he's going to get the move done this time. I say that though, but Jan is getting closer into Indianapolis. We saw Russell come to strife on the lap prior, but Jan does the pull out of the move and decides that he's not going to go for it this time by. You saw him drop back as well. So going into Indianapolis, Russell Barnes still in P9 after being P4 for a little while and spending most of his time in P5, 6 and 7th. But that earlier incident he's talking about, Billy Fletcher has had an incident. We'll have a look to see what happened to Billy going into Indianapolis. He was one of the biggest movers in the field. Cars jinking left and right on the brakes. Does he ever rotate the car going through here? Uses a lot of curb, and he does indeed. Does he keep it out the barrier? Great job from Billy. Locks all the brakes up and keeps it out of harm's way. Didn't lose any positions from that. He's in pretty much a world of his own. We'll go back live with him. The next car behind him is this man here, Jonas Amir Ecker. So the car to pit on the lap prior didn't lose many positions at all. I said he might be in the low teens, but I wasn't expecting the 13th, so the lowest teen you can get. He's now lost 8 positions, but he has got another pit stop still to go, because you won't be able to do the following 1 hour 40 minutes of the race still to go on 1 tank of fuel. You struggle to get an hour out of it, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see Jonas start thinking about strategy in the upcoming laps. Hugo Girouet setting a personal best time, a 3-minute 52.253. And the sun is starting to come out, so I'm guessing the track will start to get a little hotter. I will bring up the weather once again, so you can see we're now at 8:30 in the sim time. And like I said, the track temp will be starting to rise. It's gone up 1 degree so far, which doesn't sound like much, but that will very, very quickly elevate as the sun gets higher into the sky. And obviously the clouds will clear the higher, or the later into the day we go. So 8:30 at the moment. We'll have a look back at around 9 o'clock, so in half an hour's time, or at the halfway point in the race, we'll have a look just to see what the track temperature is doing. So sadly, Samuel, yeah, it's not great that that you're not here, but I'm guessing you will make sure you are in for the next one. Thank you very much for the compliments. Did I see what happened to Lancaster at the beginning? I saw him come to strife a little early on. Whether it will let me go back that far, I'm not 100% sure. I don't think it will. We saw him spin a little earlier on as well. He just grabbed the grass while on the brakes, and that rotated the car through 180 degrees. I'm back at the start on the event viewer, and I'm not seeing much to do with... Here we go. Let's have a look back. So this is going into turn 1. A car throws himself off sideways. Does he get collected by Chris Roberts in the background? He doesn't. So he keeps it. Oh, he just over-rotates the car on the throttle. Grabs the brake as hard as he can and keeps it pointing in the right direction. But obviously, because this was the start of the race, it's just like a freight train dropping him back down the order. So that really just shows off what a drive he's been doing. He's now in P14 from where he started in what was P8, I believe. So he's lost 6 positions. So not exactly the race he was looking for. Chasing down Yunus Amir Eka. The closest 2 drivers on the circuit are actually the top 2 at the moment. Hugo Drouet, oh sorry, the P2 and P3. Hugo Drouet coming under very heated attention from Nathan Richardson. Sorry, I wasn't even looking there, but that's Nathan Richardson going sideways into the barrier. It doesn't look like he gained much damage from that at all. I was looking at the timing screen, so we'll have a look back at that just to see what happened. That's not Nathan Richardson. It's not quite showing me. There we go. We'll find it again. There we go. Going into the very quick right-hander. Does he over-rotate it on the brakes? The car's going sideways into the corner. Does a great job of avoiding Hugo Drouet, but that sadly puts him into the wall. As soon as you hit that gravel, it's a very it's a one-way train pretty much, and a very quick one at that, going into the wall. But I think he only loses 1 position from there. He's gone from P3 down to P4, but Chris Roberts is just behind. 1.1 is the gap between those two now. We've had a massive incident further back for Gonzalo Garcia Alves. This is apparently Braden Coates, but let me try that again. There we go. So, oh, he's hit the wall, and that car is looking very crumpled already. We've had another incident for Pablo de la Vega. These incidents aren't even related. So Pablo was in P7 at the time, I believe, but he spins the car through 90 degrees, kisses the wall out of Indianapolis, nearly reverses back into traffic, but does the sensible thing, decides to go forward, compromise his own line, just to make sure that everybody else is nice and safe. And nearly does it again. That's very close. Great driving from Billy Fletcher. I think that was. It was indeed. Billy Fletcher doing a great bit of avoidance work there. Now all the way up into P11. He's gained 15 positions from where he started. One of the biggest movers in the field. What we'll do is we'll bring up the total gains for everybody. So you can see Billy with his 15 positions there. But the biggest mover by far in the field is Chris Guillaume with 17 positions gained, now in P18. And his team name really isn't related to what he's doing. Apparently his team name is No Idea, but it looks like he's got all the right ideas here. So the driver from Australia, currently in P18, working his way forward. The next biggest mover is just a little in front of him, a couple of positions up. Peter Plasto, the Team GB Ferrari in P15, and then we go up a few more. Billy Fletcher, there he is, P11, has gained 15 positions. Then Jan Korbs, we looked at him earlier on, he's gained 16 positions, and he's looking to take another here. This is Russell Barnes, just a little further ahead as well, but he is trying to work his way back through the order as well. We've got Chris Roberts dropping down the order. Not sure what happened there, whether that was just a bad run, but he's lost out to Nathan Richardson. Alex Coing is dropping down as well. So that is Russell Barnes promoting himself into P7, and another position gained for Jan Korbs behind. So he's now gained 17 positions from where he started. So great job from him. How far is Crater in front? That's a great question. At the moment, he is 24.4 seconds ahead, 24.5 seconds ahead now. So well and truly out in front. That is almost a pit stop time as well. Not necessarily a pit lane time, but definitely a pit stop time. Obviously, the variation between that is from the time you enter the pit lane, from the time you exit the pit lane is the pit lane time, and the pit stop time is how long it takes you to do a full set of tyres and the fuel as well. But with the track temp being very, very low at the moment, we'll have a look back. I said we would check halfway through, but we're going to check now. Still 19 degrees. You won't be shredding your tyres because of temperature. It will all be because of driving style at this point. But Alex is looking very nice and smooth, using the curbs where he needs to and avoiding them when not to use them. But I'm guessing Alex won't be taking tyres now, and will just double stint tyres throughout the 2-hour race. We are now at the quarter way. Oh, we're now over, or just about a quarter into the race now. So half an hour of the race gone. We've got an incident for Joaquin Moreno Vidal going through turn 1 into the turn 2, turn 3 S's section. Does he get it slowed down in time? We've seen that happen before. Rotate the car on the brakes. Just about keeps it in the right direction. We've seen that happen a lot. If you just lock the brakes, it keeps the car on a nice simple trajectory. So he's now right the way down into P20. Russell Barnes has got past James McIntosh. and he is now P6, so James losing out there. The next target for Russell will be Chris Roberts, and you may hear me refer to Russell as Mr. Finding Speed. So if you are new to the channel, if you are one of the 20 people watching, Russell Barnes is the man behind the operation here at the Finding Speed YouTube channel. He is the one that produces all the content. I am just sort of a friend of the channel that happens to commentate on iRacing, esports, sim racing, anything of the sort. And obviously I was more than happy to cover what is now his third community race, but he runs wide coming out of Arnage, and he will lose out to James McIntosh again, going up towards the Porsche curve. So James once again gaining P6, but I don't think Russell is going to let him have it that easily. He's still just about alongside. You can see him swap over on the timing screen, so he's back in front now, but James will have the preferred line going into the Porsche curves, and Russell has got the move done well and truly. So Russell having quite a brief scare there, but he's back up to P6. That has only allowed James to get closer, and Alexander Coing is also getting nice and close with these two guys. You heard a Ford roar away in the background. That's this man here, Jan Korbs, on a charge, gained 16 positions. He's followed by Billy Fletcher with a very similar 16 positions as well. But we've seen Billy a hell of a lot more on the stream. He's been working his way through nice close accidents, but also he's had some nice overtakes as well. I'll update you on the leader once again. Alex Creighton now has extended the gap to 27 seconds, so Team Dusty Martini Racing must be absolutely delighted with Alex's drive so far in the Porsche. You saw some lapped traffic in the background, but I don't think you'll have to deal with it anytime soon. You can see in the battle box on the bottom right of your screens now, the next car that he will have to deal with, whether it's lapped car or for position, is 1 minute and 1 second up the road, so I don't think that will be bother him at all. That's this man here, Andrew Parker, in the Monster Racing Porsche 911 RSR, and we said at the start of the stream that the Porsche is the car to, or the favourite car of the night, and he's just sort of proving me right. Nearly commentator's curse takes effect there. Must have been millimetres away from that gravel trap, but he keeps it pointing the right way. You heard him bounce off the limiter, so he's trying to work his way back up the order. The next target for him is 34 seconds up the road. That's Miguel Schneigel. So quite at the distance further up, we've got Joaquin Moreno Vidal just about defending from Braden Coates. We said he will be back working his way up the order. Obviously the previous leader, he's now in P22. So he's trying to get into P21. But he's got to work his way past Joaquin Moreno Vidal, going through the final section of the Porsche curves, going up towards the Ford chicanes. Can he get the move done? He's looking to the inside, filling his mirrors late on the brakes. He does well and truly get the move done, so a great job from Braden. Working his way into P21, so the American more than happy with that. The next car for him on the itinerary will be this man here, Steve Hannon. He's just picked up another positions in the pit lane as Braden Coates, because we've got Chris Guillaume, pardon me, is now in the pit lane. So Braden now in P21. Steve Hannon is just a little bit further up the road. I say that commentator's curse for you at its finest. Rotates the cars through 180 degrees. Great driving from Braden Coates to pick his way past it. And he is now in P19. So from one to the other, Braden has picked up 3 positions in the space of about 30 seconds. The next car for him will be Saleh Yolok. Just blinking a little bit in and out there. So the BMW M8, we know he's got the legs on the straight, so I don't think Braden will do much about him on the straights, but he'll be working his way back up the order. We've still got people nice and close in the top 5. So this is Remo Zweifel coming under pressure from Hugo Drouet. So this is going to be a battle for P2 respectively. Chris Roberts is leading Nathan Richardson by the tune of about 3/10. So Chris doing a great job once again, back up into P4. We've seen him spend time pretty much everywhere in the top 10 so far. James McIntosh still hot on the heels of Russell Barnes, but also dragging Alexander Coing with him. I say that, but Nathan Richardson has worked his way past Chris Roberts going into Indianapolis, so great driving from Nathan to get the move done there, but he looks like he gets the worst of the 2 runs, and Chris Roberts works his way back past going into Arnage, so these two getting ever closer, but Nathan's still got the inside line, late on the brakes. Chris doesn't want to turn across him, so great sportsmanship from Chris Roberts there. You can hear the Porsches screaming through Arnage, but great driving from Chris. He didn't want to chop the nose off Nathan, so nice cautious driving from him, but Nathan is now into P4. He's worked his way back up. Lily saying you don't usually follow racing, etc. So your commentary is helping out a lot. Well, thank you very much for that. I'm glad I am doing a good enough job. Like I mentioned, I'm just starting to break into sort of sim racing commentary, and I've got to say it really is a pleasure to do. And it's just sort of one of my hobbies, which has turned into something a little more serious. So I'm more than happy to do it for a friend as well. Speaking of Mr. Russell Barnes, here he is, following that trio through. He's now hot on the heels of Chris Roberts. So Chris losing out to Nathan Richardson, and he's now got probably one of his arch rivals finding speed. Russell Barnes just behind as well, going through the 4 chicanes. This is very quickly becoming a battle for attrition between 5 cars. It looks like Russell gets the best run coming out of the 4 chicanes that he could hope for, crossing the line, still in P6. We'll keep an eye on the timing tower on the left-hand side. There's the change of position. So that means Russell Barnes has got in front going into turn 1. He's got his nose ahead, and he's got the move done very, very nicely. Chris Roberts late on the brakes, can't do much about it. He's looking for the quickest run he can through there, but Russell has got the move done. So Russell promoting himself into the top 5. Chris Roberts won't let him go that easy, and obviously we've got the very long Mulsanne straight coming up as well, so Chris will have the draft assistance for that as well. Remo Zweifel still just about managing to fend off the attentions of Hugo Drouet behind. We'll look forward from Hugo's car. Actually, we'll treat you to another onboard. You can see the camera shaking just with how quick this car is going. Obviously that feature just recently being added into the iRacing service. Some lapped traffic just getting out of the way very nicely for everybody. That's Alveol's. But Hugo lifting off, whether that is just for fuel saving purposes, I'm not sure yet. So whether Hugo is still playing around with strategy. We heard him lift off and run pretty much 0 revs going into the first chicane. So a great job from Hugo in terms of strategy. Zweifel is just ahead though, so I don't think that will be the end of his battle so far. So Remo, there he is. We'll go on to another onboard camera, but this time looking back from Remo. Once again with that beautiful flat 6 screaming in our ears from that Porsche. He's also lifting off going into going into the second chicane. So whether this isn't actually a battle, whether this is Remo working with Hugo and Hugo working with Remo as well, just to save fuel. We're looking back from Hugo for some reason. There we go. So whether these two know that the move isn't on the way, and they're just more than happy to sit behind each other, maybe swap now and then, save a bit of fuel in the draft. Hugo obviously will be saving the most of the two, because he will have that draft assistance, so he won't have to use all of his power going down the Mulsanne straight. But he's just about still clinging on to that 1 second margin. Russell Barnes dropping down the order. That's Nathan Richardson diving up the inside, going into the right-hander. That's a car backwards. That was the lap traffic we saw a little earlier on. I think that was Alviles. There we go. I'll get it right. 3rd time's a charm. Nathan Richardson still in P4 after working past Russell Barnes. But once again, Russell not letting him get away with it at all, being followed by Chris Roberts as well. So whether Russell can get the move done going into Indianapolis, we've seen it work before. But whether it works this time by, Nathan drops back once again, decides to concede the position. Well, I say that, but he's still alongside, got his foot pinned to the floor. They're basically line astern here. Russell Barnes gets the move done, gets the preferred line going in, and Nathan drops back. But Chris Roberts has got the best seat in the house for this, I say that. But Alexander Cohen, we said he was going to get dragged along for this ride, and he really is now. So he's looking at the 4 Porsches in front of him, and my God, that's Billy Fletcher, gained 18 position from where he started. That's got to be my favourite camera angle. You hear all the cars screaming by. Billy Fletcher now in P8, so a top 5 really isn't off the cards for him. James McIntosh is just about a second back from this battle, but he's dragging Jan Korbs with him as well. So these guys getting nice and acquainted with each other. But what we'll do is, you'll have to excuse me a moment. I'm going to have to take a quick break, because it's a 2-hour race, and we're 40 minutes in. My voice is starting to get a little tired, and I've just got to put my phone on charge as well, because that is how I'm looking at chat. But I really hope that you stick with us. 23 of you watching at the moment, so thank you very much for watching. But I will be back in no more than 5 minutes. I've left the cameras rotating through the most exciting parts of the race, so if you want to keep up to date with any moves happening on circuit, hopefully this is the way to do it. So please do let me know if I've missed anything by the time I get back. But thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in just about 5 minutes. Don't go away. Hello everybody, I'm back in the booth, so you should have me for the rest of the stream now. Just about 1 hour and 20 minutes to go. I may just nip away for a quick 2-3 minute break once again. Just gives me time to cool down a little bit because it is quite busy work, as I'm sure you can imagine. I'm just on first glance, it's looking like Billy Fletcher has worked his way up into P5. So when we left him, he was in P7. Now got himself into P5. So a great job from Billy. Still working his way up the order, so I did say he was on the charge for a top 5 and possibly even a podium now, because the car's a little further up the road. Then first car he will get to ahead of him is this man here, Nathan Richardson. We just grabbed him before he went out of shot. He's in P4, only 1.2 seconds up the road, now 1.1, so Billy getting ever closer. The next car after Nathan is 10 seconds away, which is Hugo Drouet, but you'll probably get 2 for the price of 1 here, because Hugo is hot on the heels of Remo Zweifel, only half a second between these two. So those two getting nice and comfortable, but I don't think P1 is on the cards for him, because 36 seconds up the road from Remo Zweifel is this man here, Alex Crater in P1, doing an absolutely amazing job. We kept an eye on him towards the start of the stream, saying that he will be on for a good position starting P2, made the most of it, and sadly Braden Coates obviously was held up in that earlier incident, and he's dropped him way down into P18 now. But he's still working his way up the order, is the American. We left the pits in P28, and he has gained 10 positions from there. The next car he will be putting a charge upon will be this one here, Saleh Yoluk. You heard his BMW popping and banging away, going through Arnage out of the bottom of shot there, and then he's got quite a little drive from there up to this man here, Jan Korbs, in P16. And has Jan pitted yet? He has indeed, so I've missed a couple of pit stops, so sorry about that. But Saleh Yoluk has pitted as well. 1 minute 10 seconds it took him to go from the start of the pit lane to the end. Jan Korbs only took 1 minute 9. The first person to pit was this man here, Yunus Amir Akka. He only took 52 seconds to go from the start of the pit lane to the very end. So he managed to do something everybody else couldn't. We've had an issue for Peter Plasto. We'll keep an eye on what happened here. Going through turn 1 by the looks of it, into turns 2 and 3. Over-rotates the car. We've seen that so many times, over-rotating the car on the brakes. Gets it pointed the right way again. Thankfully no traffic was there to collect him, but keeps it on the roll, and he's back out charging hard in P12 after picking up a position from this man here, Stahl van Nijen, who is also in the pits. It looks like he's got quite a bit of damage on that car. Can we get a better camera angle zoomed in? There we go. Finally get my words out. So maybe not. Maybe it's just the body shape of that Porsche, but it looks like he's got mild damage. Not sure what's happened there, but he's been in the pits for quite the length of time now. 1 minute 20. There we go. I was expecting him to leave very, very shortly. It's now been 1 minute 20 seconds, 1 minute 30 seconds just ticked over. So he spent 10 seconds extra in the pits than everybody else. So not the pit stop Stein was looking for. But that does mean that he's also gifted another position to Braden Coates. So we'll keep an eye out for him, Lily. So Braden Coates now in P17. 3.5 or 3.1 seconds, pardon me, up to Saleh Yoluk in the BMW on the Mulsanne Straight. You can hear Braden's Porsche screaming away in the background. Another blink in and out for Saleh, so whether that is something he will have to think about towards the end of the session if network issues start to play a part. The guys up front are still getting nice and acquainted with each other. This is Alexander Coing now leading the way, so he's done a great job there. He's gone from what was P8 all the way up to P5. And he's now leading Nathan Richardson, Chris Roberts and James McIntosh. And I can't believe I'm saying this, Billy Fletcher has gained 22 positions and he's all the way up in P4. So a mega job from the Lux Sim 24 esports driver. Really knows what he's doing. And he's worked his way very, very high up. 6.8 or 7.8 seconds, pardon me, up the road is Hugo Drouet in the Ferrari, who has managed to lose the draft from Remo Zweifel, and it just shows how much of a difference it makes. They were nose to tail a couple of laps ago, and Remo has just managed to shake off the attentions of Hugo, so we'll keep an eye on Hugo, whether he decides to pit nice and early, but I don't think if he pits now, he will be able to go to the end, so we'll have to keep an eye on that as well. 21 people watching. Thank you very much, everybody, for popping by and saying hello. Please don't hesitate to say hello in chat if you haven't as yet. It's nice to get a bit of crowd interaction and just to see what you're thinking of the race, whether there's something I need to turn up, turn down, anything like that. Please do let me know. If you want to just say hi, that is obviously also welcome as well. You're watching the FindingSpeed.com community race. This is the 2 hours of LeMons, and this is the third race third community race that Finding Speed has done. Speaking of Finding Speed, we'll go back and have a look at him. Here he is, just going into the pits now. So not the greatest time to get an action shot of Russell, but Russell is the man behind what goes on here, working tirelessly to make sure he gets a couple of videos out every week, and he never seems to let down. He always tries to, whether it be a video or a stream, he always gets a few done every week. We've had a massive incident for Gonzalo Garcia Alviles. We saw him fall foul of an incident earlier on, and that car's looking rather fresh all of a sudden, so I'm guessing he's dived into the pits to get a fast repair. Does he ever rotate the car? It just doesn't look like he brakes. It snaps left, snaps right, and doesn't get it slowed down before the wall. But there's a Porsche coming in the background. You can hear it screaming away. It doesn't look like he comes to strife with that. I think that was Rob Lancaster that went by. But that car is now missing quite a vital part of bodywork on the front. That's the bonnet, so that will play a part in aerodynamics as well. So now the driver all the way down in P29. The Iberian won't be happy with that. Taking it nice and cautious though. Making sure not to take any future risks that will hamper his performance. Russell Barnes still in the pit lane. He's been in the pits for 1 minute 7. I'd be expecting him to move any moment now. So whether that, he is on the jacks by the looks of it actually. Let's see whether we can get a better camera angle on what is happening. He is on the jacks indeed, so he is taking tyres as well. So any moment now, I will be expecting the car to jolt towards the floor. You can hear him revving it up, so he must be moving any time now. Whether he's got damage or not, there we go, down onto the floor. Went into the pits in P9 and has left in P18, almost P19 now. We'll see whether Miguel Schneigel, there we go, Schneigel will get by. He does indeed, so he is now in P19. We had another issue for Gonzalo Garcia. We'll see what happens to him. This is coming out of Indianapolis, going up towards Arnage. Let's see what happens to him. It jumps sideways. He over-rotates the car through there, and he's really struggling with that car at the moment. It looks like he's got some major mechanical issues with that. We'll go back live with him just to see what's up. He's still keeping his foot to the floor, but it doesn't look like he's got much confidence behind that car. So do the people with out next to their name mean they quit? Yes, it either means they quit or they're not currently rotating on the circuit. So if we have a look, Nicholas Yarrington, yep, that says he's out. So that does mean he is no longer in the session. And that could either mean that he's retired due to an incident and he's not comfortable to carry on, or it could mean that he just didn't start the race at all, like a lot of the drivers didn't that took part in the practice session, which is a shame, but that's just iRacing for you. You can leave and rejoin whenever you like to. But yeah, good question, and yes, that does mean that they are no longer in the session. Samuel's saying, I've missed a bit. Any major news? Looks like a load of pits have happened. Yes, I went for a quick sort of 2-3 minute break as well and missed sort of the major parts of the race, but we have got people slowly diving into the pits. Our leader has gone into the pits, Alex Crater. He went into the pits with a 49-second lead, and that will very quickly diminish with Remo Zweifel going through the Porsche curves now. But yes, Samuel, you have missed a little bit. We've had Russell dive into the pits and a couple of other people. No major incidents. I'm not sure whether you were here when Braden Coates dropped right down the order, but he is now working his way back up into P16. So our original leader, after a major incident, has got a nice fresh car, and that isn't hampering his performance at all. He is now into P16. The next target is still, once again, Salih Yoluk, but you can see how close those two are now. 1.2 seconds separating those two. Remo Zweifel has gone past the pit lane and inherited the lead. The next car to do that will be this man here, Hugo Drouet. They swap as I click on them. James McIntosh will be the next to do that. There we go, crossing the line now, followed by Chris Roberts. We've also got Billy Fletcher, Alexander Coing in the pit lane as well, Nathan Richardson and Yunus Amir Acker in the pits once again. We saw him dive into the pits very early on, and he's been followed into the pits by Pablo De La Vega. So it's all on Peter Plasto to see what he does going through the Porsche curves. into the Ford chicanes. Now he dives into the pit lane, so we've got to that point in the race, 51 minutes in, where people do need to start pitting, and whether that fuel saving for Hugo Rouet played a part in that, I'm not sure, but Hugo is still out on circuit. There he is on the Mulsanne straight, and he's got quite the sizable gap to James McIntosh behind. Matthias Butzkofer is also diving into the pit, so at the moment P6 to P12 are all in the pit lane. Billy Fletcher is leaving now, same with Alexander Coing. Yunus Amir Eicher is still just sat in the pit lane, hasn't got the car going yet. Jan Korbs is now screaming past the pit lane behind the wheel of his Ford GT. He has now promoted himself up into P8. Simon Chester is dropping down the order. Not sure what's happened to Simon there. He's just stopped on the side of the circuit, so we'll get a replay just to see what happened to Simon. This is not Simon Chester. This is Yunus Miyaka. There we go. So here's what happened to Simon. We'll just keep an eye out. What happened here? Going very, very quickly into there. That almost looks like brake failure. He just wasn't looking. He tried to take it flat out, and then the car stops very abruptly on the grass. And we'll go back live with him just to see how he's getting on. He's got it back going again, going through turns 2 and 3 over the hill under the Dunlop Bridge. So not sure what happened to him, just a little moment of madness. Still got loads of cars in the pit lane. Pablo de la Vega, Matthias Butzkofer and Peter Plaster are in the pit lane. But the top 4 so far haven't pitted, so Remo Zweifel, our now new race leader, has yet to pit. Same with Hugo Rouet, but he has been fuel saving, so I'm expecting him to go for that little bit extra. James McIntosh is under pressure from Chris Roberts, and this will be a battle for position because these two haven't pitted yet. So this will be a battle for what will quickly become the P4 on the podium, or this will be P4 actually, mixing my words up. So P4, this battle is for, because we've got to remember that the leader here is Alex Crater. He has pitted, so he will go to the top of the order and shuffle everybody down a little bit. So if Chris Roberts gets past James McIntosh, that will be Chris promoting himself into P4 in theory. He'll be P3 on track at the moment, but P4 after all is said and done with the pit stops. Russell Barnes is still working his way back up the order on a fresh set of boots. He is now in P14, got past Miguel Schneigel on this lap, going down the Mulsanne straight, but Miguel is in the draft. Braden Coates is working his way up the order. He's doing everything he can to get past Saleh Yuluk, but Saleh left him no room at all there. I've got to say that, but that was all Saleh's fault. Watch that back. So Braden side by side going into the second chicane. Braden's got the move done pretty much, and Saleh just cuts across the front of him. Nothing Braden can do there. Braden does a great job of straightening Saleh back up, but yeah, that was all on Saleh, I'm afraid. But Braden has now gone all the way up to P10. He is still yet to pit, of course. But he's, oh no, that's him locking his brakes at the end of the Mulsanne straight. So maybe he's got a bit of damage that he wasn't aware of. Locks the brakes and just straight lines the right hander there. So we'll keep an eye on what happened here. He hits the cone, and that's just hits the second cone as well. It's almost like the car just doesn't turn at all. Maybe the brake bias changed on the fly. But that's really not what he's looking for. As soon as he gets into P10, he drops all the way back down to P13. He's got a BMW in front of him of Simon Chester, followed by Nathan Richardson, who we've seen a little bit of. And then finally, he gets back up to his previous rival, Saleh Yuluk, working his way through Indianapolis. Now got our original leader, or our previous leader, in the pits, Remo Zweifel. Chris Roberts has now swapped past Hugo Rouet, so that's Chris Roberts now leading the race, everybody. So the virtual racing compound driver started P10, has been messing around between sort of P8 and P4, has worked his way into P1 at the moment. We did speak to Matt Forrest, the second driver of the virtual racing compound team. He said he will be working on the strategy in the car. So whether this is something they're going to consider for the actual iRacing official Le Mans 24-hour, lots of tyre smoke there, so whether somebody's had a coming together coming out of Tetra Rouge, but going on to the Mulsanne straight doesn't seem to phase Chris Roberts at all. Chris now in the lead, pulling out quite the nice gap to Hugo Rouet. Alex Crater, who is in theory in the lead, not on circuit at the moment, but after all pit stops have been taken, Alex Crater will be in the lead. Billy Fletcher is now in P4. So he's worked his way all the way up to P4, gained 22 positions. Remo Zweifel is in P5, Alexander Coing P6, Jan Korbs P7, Yunus Amir Acker in P8. James McIntosh and Saleh Yuluk are still in the pits. Well, Saleh is just diving into the pits now. Nathan Richardson is crossing the line to gain the positions from the people in the pit lane, followed by Braden Coates. Here he is, currently in P11, but he will be in P10 after he's passed James McIntosh in the pit lane. There he is. James is just about to leave the pit lane as well. So those two previously fighting are now back together. Braden has got himself all the way back up into P10. Lily saying almost halfway. It flies by. It really, really does. Just looking back to see who is the closest on circuit at the moment, and as far as I'm aware, it is the two people we're looking at. Braden Coates putting a charge on towards Nathan Richardson onto the Mulsanne straight. Braden getting the better run of the two now within a second, and obviously he will have the draft as soon as he gets within that second margin. So Braden pushing forward now, the American driver against the Iberian. Doesn't look like he'll be on for a move this time. Bias a little far back. I thought I saw some flashing of the lights from Braden, seeing whether he can get any little advantage going into the braking zone. Half a second separates the two going into the first chicane. We'll see what separates them going into the second chicane as soon as they work their way through here. Pablo de la Vega is under pressure from Chris. Oh, he's putting the pressure on Chris Guillaume. So these two getting nice and close. That's for P17 overall. We'll go back to this battle alone. Nathan Richardson still under pressure from Braden Coates. 4 tenths separates them now. 3.5 tenths. So Braden getting nice and close to the tail end of Nathan Richardson going into the right-hander at the end of the straight. I'm guessing Nathan will have to very strongly think about defence. Once again, Braden gets the better run of the two. Half a second between them, but that time is starting to very quickly come down. Again, what we'll do is we'll look at Braden Coates so you can see the battle box. You can see the lifetime rattling down between those two. So Braden in the draft, 3.5 tenths between them now. 3 tenths, almost 2.5 tenths. He's going quicker than I can speak. 2 tenths separating now, but it doesn't look like Braden's going to get the move done this time by, but they have got another straight to go, so Braden will be focusing on getting that run coming out of the right-hander, but it looks like Nathan had that option covered as well. So going down what is now the second straight of the Le Mans circuit, the Le Sarthe circuit. Just took over the 59-minute mark, so 1 minute to go, and we are officially halfway through this race. But Braden Coates really piling on the pressure to Nathan Richardson going into Indianapolis. Is he going to get the move done? He looks to the outside. Nathan does defend the inside, and Braden decides to pull out of the move, brake nice and early. But going into Indianapolis, that also gives him that extra time to react. It looks like he went a little deep on the brakes, but he recovers beautifully. Takes the very late apex, and that's our current leader going into the pits at the moment. So that's Chris Roberts in the pit lane, but Alex Crater is there. Just got past Hugo Drouet. It looks like Hugo Drouet has run out of fuel. All that fuel saving turned out to lead to nothing. You can see the car jumping forward as it finds that piece of fuel just sloshing around in the tanks. But Alex Crater now works his way back into the lead. Chris Roberts currently in P2 in the pit lane. There he is. Hugo Drouet is just about going into the pits. Saw Chris Roberts swap the car for Matt Forrest with his rather garish photo looking upon us. Billy Fletcher, here he is, crossing the line now. He's already pitted. Whether he has to pit again yet, I'm not too sure. We've just ticked past the 1 hour mark. Billy Fletcher now in P2. I said he was on for a top 5. I wasn't quite expecting a podium. Rimos Zweifel is now in P3. Alexander Coing is working his way past, as well as Jan Korbs as well. Matt Forrest is still sat in the VRC pit box. Janis Anir Acker is now in P6, working his way past a lot of them. Braden Coates now in P9, so he did end up getting past Nathan Richardson. We'll have a look back at that replay now, if the replay stops moving. There we go. So going through the Porsche curves, going into the Ford chicane, that's Nathan Richardson in the white car on the right-hand side of your screen. Braden Coates gets the move done around the outside. Great job from Braden. Picks up another position, so Braden is now in what was P9, but he's worked his way up into P7 after all is said and done with all these pit stops. So Matthew Forrest now leaving the pits in P10, exactly where that car started. Russell Barnes has inherited P11, so he's working his way back up through the order. We saw Russell ahead of the VRC car as it went into, or as they were together earlier on, and as Russell dived into the pit lane. But Matt Forrest is now ahead of Russell Barnes. Alex Crater has lost that massive gap that he had. He had a 47 second gap going into the pits, and he is now only 19 seconds ahead of Billy Fletcher in that Ford GT. So Billy pushing forward, he's gained 24 positions. The next biggest mover after him is the driver in P4, Jan Korbs. really struggling with these names at the moment. So obviously this is a hosted session, so if you got here before the start of the race, anybody could join. So these names have sort of been made up on the fly. So if you are watching this back, or you're watching this live on maybe a second screen, or you've got it running in the background, I am sorry if I am pronouncing your name wrong. Obviously I haven't had much time to prepare for this, because there's not much preparation you can do for an open public session for anybody to join. But the closest two cars on circuit are these two here. Matthew Forrest has lost out to Russell Barnes. We'll have a look just to see what happened there, because those two shouldn't have swapped positions just as yet. There was 1.5 seconds between them, but it looks like Matt just got the poorest run that he could possibly get going out of the first chicane. Russell dives to the outside and makes sure that he doesn't give Matt much room at all. Cuts across, make sure he doesn't get the draft as well, but Russell's still leading Matt Forrest. And he's starting to build a gap as well, so that's Matt demoted down into P11 and dropping ever further back, and he'll have to keep an eye on his mirrors now for Stijn van Nijlen, currently in P12, only 4 seconds away from Matt. Jannes Emir Akker side by side with Alexander Koeing, swapping positions left, right and centre, but Jannes dives to the inside. Alex has got the better run going through there, but Jannes will get the cutback going up towards Arnage, but Alexander will have the preferred line going in. He's late on the brakes. You saw him snag a brake, and he doesn't quite get the car turned in time, and that's Jannes making the most of it and disappearing into the distance now in P5. Alexander Koeing in P6, and Braden Coates, after leading the race, dropping down to P28, has worked his way all the way back up to P7. So great job from him, but he's still not quite got rid of the attentions of Nathan Richardson, and these two swapped positions 2 laps ago, and they're still nose to tail. But they are getting nice and close. 6.5 tenths, almost 7 tenths between them now. And we're going to go back to our leader, Alex Crater. We said not 2 laps ago that he is 13.5 seconds ahead of Billy Fletcher, but Billy has got that gap down to now 13 seconds. So Billy doing an absolutely amazing job of working his way up through the order, and just keeping the gap nice and neutral. Just dropped into the 12-second mark. You can see it on the delta in the bottom right-hand side of your screen. So leaping from 13.1, 13.2, dropped it back down to 12.9, going into that first chicane of turns 2 and 3. And everybody has got about a second between them now from who we were looking at. Nathan Richardson dropped back to about a second from Braden Coates. Jannes Emir Akker has pulled out around the second gap from this man here, Alexander Koeing. And everybody else has spread out quite nicely now. So we've got to that point in the race where there's not going to be much to talk about at all, because everybody has done their pit stops. They've worked out their strategy, and they're just slowly starting to get into quite the rhythm to run till the end of the race, and it doesn't look like there's going to be much going on. Well, I say that, but Remo Zweifel has come to strife going out of the first chicane. I actually think that's just on the straight. He hasn't even got to a chicane yet. So we'll have a look just to see what happened to Remo. It's got some quite heavy damage on that car. He's passing some back marker traffic. Oh, he cuts across the circuit. Big hit for those two. I think that was the number 40 car that he collected as well. That was Yannick Delhers. That's such a shame for Yannick, and obviously Remo as well, because he was on for what was going to be quite a good race. You can see the car crabbing from left to right, snaps across the circuit. He really can't afford to keep that car going. I wouldn't be surprised if he dives into the pit lane. He does indeed, and I'm not sure whether he's out of the race or not, but it doesn't look like he is going to be playing much further part in this race for position at all. He was leading the race at one point as well, so that's a real shame for Remo. But while all this is going on, there is a race going on. You had 2 Porsches go screaming by there. That's Matthias Butzkofer, followed by Pablo de la Vega and Chris Guillaume. Those two getting nice and cozy. Russell Barnes has lost out to Matt Forrest again. So what we'll do is we'll have a look back to see what happened to these two. Was Russell Barnes dealing with a slowdown? It looks like he was going very slow, hard on the brakes, and getting rid of what was presumably a slowdown penalty. So that's now Matt Forrest promoting himself into P9, working his way back past Russell Barnes, but obviously that means now he's in front. He's got all the work to do on the defensive side. We've got these two getting nice and close. This is Pablo de la Vega defending as hard as he can from Matthias Butzkofer. Oh, sorry, Butzkofer was defending as hard as he could from De La Vega, but De La Vega looks like he's got the position done going into the first chicane. He has indeed in the draft, jumps out of it, gets the move done, and he's well and truly got it done before he even gets to the first chicane, so a great job from him. So we now are at that point in the race where, after Lily has reminded me, we've got to check that the track temperature. Still only 19 degrees. I was expecting it to warm up quite nicely now, because it's 9:15 in the race, or in the sim, and the sun has started to come out a little bit as well. But it looks like there's still some quite thick cloud cover, so the track temperature hasn't gained much at all, if any. You can see obviously the tracks, or the weather state as well. It does say cloudy, so the track will remain nice and cool for the rest of the race. You can see the sun glaring through the trees there, so that is sort of what I was expecting that was why I was expecting the circuit to warm up, but it's not quite done it yet. You also asked whether Fletcher has taken a pit. He has indeed. Billy Fletcher, our P2 driver, he's been into the pits on lap 13, so when everybody else pitted, funnily enough, when the leader pitted, Alex Crater, and the driver behind him, Yanis Aka, he was in the pits for 1 minute 10 seconds, so that was 30 seconds less than Alex Crater, which is why Alex has lost all of that time from 48 or 47 seconds down to 15 now, but Alex has started to extend it a little bit. So Billy struggling for pace now going into the closing half of the race. So that will be why Billy lost all that time. Braden Coates is diving into the pits now. No damage on that car, so thankfully this is a scheduled pit stop now. In P6 at the moment, but it's guaranteed he will lose a few more. There he is, P7 going by. Russell Barnes working his way through the 4 chicanes, now well and truly ahead of Matt Forrest. So Matt Forrest crossing the line now as well, so Braden will be dropping down to at least 9th position. Stein van Nylen crossing the line as well. Hugo Girouet, where is he after recovering from that obviously loss of fuel at the end of his first stint? Lily saying I'd make a good weatherman. Well, I was thinking that the other day. Does commentary sort of help with how you appear on TV? And it might do. I'll give it a shot for sure. If I get given the opportunity, I'm always open to do it. But Braden Coates losing another position there to Hugo Girouet. So now in P11, you can hear the revs rising in that car. The next car to pass him will be this man here, Peter Plasto. Very, very shortly followed by a bit. It's only a bit of back marker traffic, so that should only be 1 position lost for Braden this time by. You can hear him really revving that car. He's desperate to get going, urging his pit crew to get on with the job. But there's Peter Plasto crossing the line now, so it doesn't look like Braden will get out in time. The next car to pass will be Pablo de la Vega crossing the line now as well. So Braden spending plenty of time in the pit lane. There we go. He's leaving the pits now, and he's just lost out to Matthias Butzkofer. Christopher Guillaume is just behind him, but I don't think he'll get a position off. I know he won't get the position off Braden Coates. So Braden leaving the pits in P14, entered the pits in P6. So not a bad job from Braden. Spent a little longer than I was expecting. 1 minute 20 in the pits, which is quite the time. Ramos Zweifel has apparently spent 15 minutes of the race in the pits, but I found that very hard to believe. I know he had a very, very big incident, but he's now in P16, so I don't know how he's managed that. But the FAC Auto Tech Racing, or Tech Sim Racing driver, doing a great job. Great recovery drive from him. Our leader, Alex Crater, now 15.5 seconds ahead of this man here, Billy Fletcher. I say that as I look at him. That's coming out of Arnage. Looks like he over-rotated the car a little too much going into there. We'll have a look just to see what happened to Billy Fletcher. It hasn't actually picked up that he had an incident, because it was just that small of a mistake. So luckily for Billy, we won't get to see his misfortunes once again. But he was well and truly safe, because 22.5 seconds behind was this man here, Yanis Aka, who is well and truly a sort of standout driver for me. He's gained 2 positions. He started P5. He's come to strife. He's had a few little incidents here and there, but he's dived into the pits and held his car in his own hands and kept it going. Alex Coing, another standout driver for me, gained 12 positions, but I've got to say, driver of the day so far is this man here, Billy Fletcher. 24 positions gained from where he started, and we're just watching him cross the line now to chalk number lap 18 in the book. So Billy doing an absolutely amazing job and just about keeping it on the circuit. I don't know how he's done it. The car's on the edge of adhesion pretty much everywhere, but he's keeping it under his control. Closest two cars on circuit are actually these two here. Braden Coates working his way back past Peter Plastow, and he might even get two for the price of one here because he got past Peter Plastow there. Braden Coates is now pushing forward to Matthias Bootskofer. So Matthias is going to be, he's going to have to be very, very brave going into Indianapolis. We've seen Braden make moves here before. Looks to the inside, going up towards, or going on the run up towards Indianapolis. He's just about alongside his door now, properly side by side. You saw them swap on the timing tower there on the left-hand side of your screen, but Braden has got the move done late on the brakes, carries the momentum all the way through, and gets another position back. So now in P12, great driving from Braden. The American driver, yet again, just showing off what he can do behind the wheel of these Porsche 911 RSRs. But what he has done is he's worked his way through a moving battle. So Matthias Bootskofer, speaking of a moving battle, the moving chicane racing car is still going to have to defend from Peter Plastow behind. The gap has come out to about a second, but we've seen cars start to develop into a nice little battle from that far back before. Chris Guillaume is just back from that battle as well in P15. So the top 15 not separated by a massive margin when you think about it. Alex Crater still leading the way though. Great job from him, now 17.1 seconds ahead from Billy Fletcher after that earlier incident, but Billy now 25 seconds ahead of Yunus Miaka. So Billy doing everything he needs to do. I'm sure we'll grab a word with Billy if he can get into the interview waiting room by the end of the race. That will be great to talk to him. Yunus Miaka in P3, so at the moment the last spot on the podium. Still doing what he needs to do. Alexander Coing, P4. Nathan Richardson, P5. What I'll do is I'll just run you through a few of the positions while we're running through them now. James McIntosh pardon me, in P6. Finding Speed, Mr. Russell Barnes himself in P7. So while we're looking at him, massive thank you to Russell whenever he watches the stream back. Massive thanks to you, mate, for letting me take charge of your channel for the evening. Fletcher is in a genuine second. Yes, he really is. That's scary. It's not just on, like, he's not just second on track. He is second overall. He has gained 24 positions from where he started, and he's already been into the pits. So it's just absolutely amazing drive from Billy. So we'll have to keep an eye on him. But now Matt Forrest, P8 for the Virtual Racing Compound team. We've seen that car in the top 10 without a doubt all evening. Chris Roberts driving the first half of the race. Matt Forrest driving the second half, and he did pit quite late on as well, so whether he's trying to one-stop the race like he mentioned, that's always a possibility. You can see Stijn van Nijlen in the Virtual Reality Racing Porsche in P9. Hugo Drouet, after recovering from fuel loss during his strategy, is in P10. Pablo de la Vega, P11. Braden Coates, after leading the race for a sizable margin of the race and then getting caught up in an incident, has now come out of the pits in P12. Matthias Bootskofer, P13. Peter Plastow, P14. Chris Guillaume, P15. Remo Zweifel is in P16. Andrew Parker, P17. Miguel Schneigel in P19. Simon Chester, P20. And Steve Hannon rounds out Simon Chester, P19. Steve Hannon rounds out your top 20 in the second of the Lux Sim 24 esports cars, and that's just surprising me because we've got two different Lux Sim 24 esports entries. They're both in different cars and they're both at different ends of the field. So we're looking at the Porsche in the hands of Steve Hannon, and then if we go right the way back up to our P2 driver, it's the Ford in the hands of Billy Fletcher. So I'm just looking at it again, Samuel. I can see why you've asked. I wouldn't believe it either. He's gained 24 positions. He's pitted as well. So in theory, if he fuel saves, he could almost go to the end. But I don't think he is fuel saving because he's not exactly letting our leader, Alex Crater, disappear into the distance to a massive amount. So I'm guessing there could possibly be another pit stop for Billy. And we can't rule out pit stops for everybody else. We've seen Yanis Miaka pit twice so far. So I don't think he will have to pit again, but Yanis obviously being in P3, he might have a P2 on the cards if he keeps the car on the circuit. Only 8 seconds behind him though, it's Alexander Coing. We've seen him work his way up through the order very, very swiftly before, so that could be a shout as well. Nathan Richardson, doing a great job after a couple of spins and little mistakes. He's in P5, James McIntosh P6, and Russell Barnes. That's quite a weird race from Russell, because he's been working his way up through the order. He was almost on a chart for a podium for a little while. He then dropped out of the top 10, and he's worked his way back up to where he started in P7. So a great job from Russell so far. I'm just looking through the best times set so far in the race. At the moment, it is actually our leader who has set the fastest lap time, or 3 minutes 50.82. That's Alex Crater setting that lap time, so a great job from Alex. The next fastest lap back from that is our current P3 driver, Janis Miaka, has posted a 3 minutes 50.94. So those two getting nice and close in terms of best lap times. But at the moment, the sort of average between the top 10 is around a 3 minute 54, 3 minute 53 from top to bottom of the top 10. Samuel asking, do you know if people are going without new tyres for the whole race? I'm not sure, mate, because I've seen a couple of drivers take tyres and a couple of drivers haven't. I think Braden Coates didn't actually take tyres during his pit stop. He might have done, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm just looking at the various pit times. This man here, Hugo Drouet, he only spent 35 minutes in his actual pit box, so I don't think he took tyres. And then from P2 to P4 didn't take tyres by the looks of it either. Alexander Cohen spending 32 seconds in the pit box. Jonas Amir Akker spending only 23 seconds. Sorry, I'm saying 32 minutes, 32 seconds in the pit box. Jonas Amir Akker only spending 23 seconds in the pit box, and Billy Fletcher only spent 34 seconds in the pit box. So I don't think many people are taking tyres, but Alex Crater, by the looks of it, did. So our leader, he's making it work with the setup and the strategy he's got going on at the moment. So I'm not sure, Samuel, we've got a real spread from top to bottom of the field on who is and isn't taking tyres. But Alex just doing exactly what he needs to do. Leading from the front. We're now 1 hour 20 into the race, just about. Only 40 minutes of the race to go. So not long left when you think about it. Alex Crater just going through the 4 chicanes now for what will be the 20th time of asking. Yes, that's right, we're on only completed 20 laps. When you think about it, when it's almost a 4-minute lap, it really does add up over time. Got a little battle going on a little further back. That's Peter Plastow. There we go, putting all the pressure he can on Matthias Boutskofer. Just ahead of these two, we've got Braden Coates, seeing whether he can pick up another position on Pablo de la Vega. So Pablo defending hard, going into the right-hander at the end of the Mulsanne straight, still in P11 at the moment, but Braden Coates is, literally 2 cars turn into one there. Braden dives to the inside on the brakes, goes very, very tight between those two in the braking zone. Pablo just about holds on to the position, but he goes sideways, locks the brakes, and slides the car through the gravel trap, keeps it out the wall, and doesn't collect Coates as he slides through, but he will be vulnerable from this pair here coming up very shortly, because they will have the momentum on what will quickly turn into quite a long straight. Peter Plastow still nice and close to the tail end of Matthias Boutskofer, but Braden Coates now in P11 after making the most of Pablo de la Vega's dire situation. So Pablo really won't be happy with himself for that, losing a position to what could eventually be a top 5 finish for Braden Coates. Alex Crater, the lead at the moment, Lily, is 19 seconds. So Alex doing a great job. He's extended the gap from 11 seconds to 19 in the past 5 laps. So really dominating the race so far. And he's doing a great job, especially because he's pulling away from Billy Fletcher, who has been the standout driver for me throughout the race. And if he's pulling away from Billy, that clearly means he is well and truly on it. What I will do is I will still be here and keep an eye on the timing screen to just give you a quick run through. But while I'm doing that, I'll let everybody ride on board with Alex Crater just to see what he is dealing with inside the car. Nathan Richardson's getting nice and close with James McIntosh still, but those two not quite separating by quite the same margin. Alexander Cohen between the two are getting nice and close. I am actually going to have to run away from this because Alexander Cohen has just had to defend from Nathan Richardson. Nathan Richardson, what a camera angle for this, gets very close. Does Alexander Cohen to the tail end of Nathan Richardson, but Nathan just about getting the position made. I'll have a look back. I was planning to ride on board with our leader for a little longer than that, but Nathan round the outside, so the unpopular line. Obviously, he will pick up all the marbles round at the outside there as well, but he gets the move done just about. You can see how close those two cars were on the apex of the first chicane. Going onto the Mulsanne straight though, it looks like they've swapped positions once again. They have indeed. Alexander Coing has got back in front of Nathan Richardson. Nathan gets the better run of the two going out of the second chicane. Does he carry the momentum around the outside? It just looks like that is the preferred line for him around the outside. You heard me mention marbles a little earlier on, and if you're wondering what marbles are, it's just the bits of rubber from the tyre that fling off. Because obviously, as the race goes on, the tyres get hotter and hotter and they start to degrade, and obviously that means they start to fall apart as well. So it's just the cars flinging bits of tarmac around. That looked like a bit of netcode between the two of them. Nathan Richardson does a great job of slowing it down, but he does now leave him with a bit of rear wing damage. So Nathan dropping right the way back off the tail of Alexander Coing. That really isn't what I wanted to see at all. But Nathan Richardson now in P5, and he's got to keep an eye on Tim McIntosh in his rear view mirror. But Alexander Coing, it looks like he got away with that pretty unscathed. Now P4 and with a 3-second lead over Nathan Richardson. All that hard work that Nathan has put in over the last couple of laps has all come undone very, very quickly. So nothing much Nathan could do there. I'm not sure which camera angle we can look at this from. If we go and have a look at, just trying to find the point where these two swap position. I think it was here. Right, we'll look back from Nathan's car just to see what happened. I don't even think this will show it. So it doesn't even look like there's much of contact there. They were very, very close, and then another hit there as well. We got a bit of a view inside from Alexander Coing's car. But those two sadly coming together. Nathan Richardson obviously with that bit of downforce damage on the rear wing that could affect his straight line speed to about 5 kilometers an hour as well, which really does add up over the length of the Mulsanne straight. And with it being a 13.5 kilometer circuit, it will add up throughout the lap as well. I could even stop your times from climbing. It could start to drop them to the tune of about 2-3 seconds. We've had an incident for Billy Fletcher on no. We were looking at him just a little while ago going through the Ford chicane, so where the Ford should be at home in theory. Commits to a line that really doesn't work for him. Very, very bouncy. Spins the car through 180 degrees. Keeps his foot planted. Style points for Billy there. 360 degrees. Gets it pointed the right way again. And crosses the line. So that really has sort of pushed out any opportunity of a possible win for Billy as far as I'm aware. I don't want to speak too soon though, because this man here could always make a mistake in the closing stages of the race. Only about 20 or 35 minutes of the race still to go. So plenty of time for Billy to make up now. Matthew Forrest is on the attack again to work his way past Stijn van Nijlen. Ron Elder in the chat saying, has everyone pitted at least once? They have indeed. So everybody out on circuit at the moment. Actually, Rob Lancaster, not sure where he is, to be honest. It's not showing me Rob Lancaster, so I don't think, yes, he's not in the race anymore, so that'll be why we can't see him. But Rob Lancaster, so Rob Lancaster has left, but everybody else who's currently out on circuit, Ron, has pitted. So all the moves that you see on the screen will be for position. Matthew Forrest going very slow. It looked like he might have even had a bit of a slowdown there. So Matt losing more time to Stijn van Nijlen. But he won't have worried him too much about a change for a position a little further back. Peter Plasto, that's a big old hit in the wall. The car is, wow, I'm guessing it can only be described as spares now. There's missing a lot of front end bodywork. The right rear is very, very crumpled. Same with the rear wing as well. So Peter Plasto having a major incident with the wall. Let's see whether we can find the incident area. Here it is. So the car with all its bodywork here going through the Porsche curves. Very, very quick section of the circuit. The rear end steps out. There's nothing much you can do there. Big hit in the wall. Lots of bodywork missing now as well. We've had another incident for Steve Hannon. We'll see what happened to Steve. Going down the Mulsanne straight, he's got a bit of damage on the rear wing, whether that affected it or not. Does he ever rotate it coming out of the corner? He does indeed. Snaps one way, snaps the other. Doesn't hold the brakes, which not necessarily is the preferable thing. But gets it going, grabs the right gear, and does he grab first? He does indeed. Lights the rear up and just about gets out of the way before everybody decides to follow him through. I think, speaking of following him through, I think that was Nathan Richardson. It was indeed. So we'll go back to this battle live. Nathan Richardson just about fending off the attentions of Alexander Coing. That's James McIntosh, very, very sideways, joined by Alexander Coing. So I think those two had a bit of a coming together going into the right-hander at the bottom of the straight. Let's have a look. Black Porsche against Black Porsche. Can't really pick a difference between them. They both lock up. Identical incidents almost. Alexander Coing not going off the track to the same amount as James McIntosh did. But James now all the way down in P6. So he was looking for what was currently P4 at the time. But he's lost loads and loads of time from Alexander Coing and Nathan Richardson, which now means he's fallen into the grasp of Russell Barnes as well. So Russell is now getting ever closer. So Finding Speed himself is working his way back up through the order. 3 attempts between them now going into Arnage. Russell really needs to get the best run going out of here up towards the Porsche curves. It's quite a long run, so he will have the draft as well. It looks like he's getting nice and close. You can see the battle box in the bottom corner only coming down now. 1/10 between them. Russ jinks out to the right hand side. He will have the inside line for the first section of the Porsche curves. You saw them swap over on the timing tower, and it looks like he's got the position done. He really does. What a move from Russell. He knew exactly what he needed to do going onto that straight. So a great move from Russell. And another position gain, so he is now up into 6th position. Next target will be Alexander Coing. Just a little further up the order, that's somebody else in the wall as well. I think that might even be Gonzalo Garcia. We've seen incidents for him already. The car looking very, very second-hand. He's very off the pace as well, not sounding the best there either. Very similar incident to before as well. The tail just steps out, puts his foot to the floor, stops in the middle of the circuit and can't quite get enough lock on either. And manages to collect the barrier, lights up the Riz once again on the grass and getting nice and acquainted with that concrete wall here at Le Mans. Going back live with him, he is deciding to pull the car into the pit lane. We've got James McIntosh going into the pit lane. That could either be for damage repairs or he doesn't have the fuel to go to the end. We've seen him pit once before, so maybe not a scheduled pit stop from him. We've got a couple of other drivers in the pits as well. Steve Hannon, he is also in the pits with Gonzalo as well. We saw him going into the pits after those major incidents as well. So lots of people sadly losing out there. We'll go back to Nathan Richardson, who has really made the most of that incident behind him, and he has now pulled away to the tune of about 6.5 seconds from Alexander Coing. And Alexander has got a 2.5 second gap ahead of Russell Barnes, who is really, really on the drive forward now. And he's, well, I don't know what to say. He's just doing exactly what he needs to do. He's dropped back before. He's been in P4, P5, P6, P7, and he's dropped. I think he dropped all the way back down to P14 during the pit lane, possibly even a little bit further back on the pit window. But he's working his way back up through the order, and a top 5 definitely can't be ruled out. We've got a bit of action in chat as well. Rob saying he gave up a bit, disappointing performance, making mistakes I haven't made before. That's such a shame, mate. But when you're in amongst these guys, a nice big grid, and obviously you're being streamed on the premier streaming service of FindingSpeed.com. So all that extra pressure clearly got to you, mate. That is a shame, though. It was shaping up to be quite a good race between you and a couple of people around you, and it's such a shame about the start as well, as Samuel outlined quite nicely. But at least we've got you in chat now, so feel free to let me know if there's anything I need to turn up, turn down, or just you want to say hello and maybe just give us a better insight into what the circuit is like and how the car handles out there, because obviously you're the best person to talk to. Bearing in mind you've just stepped out of your car. But Russell Barnes getting nice and close between Alexander Coing. Now 1/10 between them. Look at the overdrive Russell has got coming out of the second chicane. He goes to the outside though, because Alexander is defending the inside, but he gets the move done well before the braking zone. Before you even think about braking, Russell is well and truly ahead. So he's really, really on the mark now in P5, but he's got to defend from Alexander because he got ahead of him that quickly. Alex made the most of the draft. He outbrakes himself a little bit, dives on the brakes too much, locks the front right, and Alexander does pretty much the same. So pretty much a saving grace from Russell there, or for Russell there. Russell now in P5. He will have to keep an eye on his rearview mirror there, because Alexander will have the draft assistance for the laps coming up. Still got James McIntosh in the pit lane for the Cortina Mark 5 Racing. Not sure what's up with James. Peter Plasto is still in the pit lane after that rather large incident. Gonzalo Garcia is still in the pit lane as well. I think those two have run out of fast repair. And Yannick Dalhaz is in the pit lane as well. We've seen him get caught up in an incident with a couple of other drivers as well. But Alex Crater still in the lead. He's just crossed the line to go on to lap 23. Somebody else just about to cross the line to go on to lap 23 is this man here, Billy Fletcher. 26 seconds behind Alex Crater and 22 seconds ahead of Yannis Amir Akker. So in a world of his own at the moment. I'm sure it'll get quite boring. We've had an incident for Andrew Parker. So someone we haven't seen major amounts of in the monster liveried Porsche going into turns 2 and 3. Over-rotates the car. We've seen that so many times before. The car just over-rotates its way through there on the brakes. He does do the sensible thing. So very, very clever driver driving from the man from Florida. Decides to do a little bit of an extra spin on what he was planning to do, but rotates the car once again through 180 degrees, gets it pointing the right way, and gets back going again. So clever driving from Andrew just to make sure he doesn't hamper the attentions of Billy Fletcher, who we saw whiz by there, and whiz by once again, going onto the Mulsanne straight. I'm not the best person to talk to considering I crashed a lot, but I'll jump in if you'd like. That would be brilliant, Rob. So if you are in the interview waiting room, let me just check you're not, but if you want to, just hop in the interview waiting room at the bottom of the Finding Speed Discord, and I'm sure we will be able to get you in just to have a word, whether it be just a brief one or not. We've got him in actually now, so what I'll do is I'll drag in Mr. Rob Lancaster. Here he is, Mr. Rob. So Rob, that was a tricky race for you, and we've been keeping an eye on the track temp throughout the race and seeing how the track's evolving. Was that maybe something that you kept in mind, that the track could evolve, or was it just sort of like controlled aggression and work your way up through the order?
I didn't really have a plan, to be honest. So, I mean, has the temperature really changed that much over the course of the race? I can imagine it's probably only about 20 or something like that.
Yes, it hasn't changed much at all. It's now only 21 degrees. It started on 18, so not a major difference there. But did the track evolve in terms of sort of, obviously the cars are going over it like a hell of a lot now. They've done a full loop of the circuit 23 times, so the track surely should have rubbered in a little bit. Did that catch you off guard maybe if you went offline onto the marbles?
I mean, honestly, I didn't really notice it that much. I had absolutely I just killed my tyres in the first stint because it wasn't. Yeah, it was the initial slide from the start, and then there were a couple of other times when I locked up. So that it didn't really feel particularly good near the end of the stint. I ended up hitting a wall, I think, in the Porsche curves or something, and the steering was a bit bent. So honestly, the car was not in the top condition to work out what was going on track. But definitely, I mean, in quali, it felt a lot slidier than what I've experienced before. So yeah, looks like Billy's also hit a wall.
Yeah, it's definitely a night to forget for you. We saw Billy just go rattling off track there at the end of the Mulsanne, so even catching out the best of us as well. In terms of the Porsche, we've seen it's the most popular car throughout the grid. Is there a bit of sort of reasoning behind that? Like, I'd just like to get a bit of an insight as to why you chose the Porsche, maybe just to lead us on to why everybody else did.
I think it's very, very stable in the high-speed section near the end of the track, for example, in comparison to the Ferrari, for example. So I think that's one thing. There's this now famous setup that Max Benecke made for PDS, and that's, I mean, it's just a really good setup. And the Porsche itself, I think, is pretty, amongst the GTEs, pretty easy to handle. Obviously for me, not so much, but for the rest of the Porsche drivers, it seems to have worked out pretty well. And yeah, I think it just feels very stable in comparison to the Ferrari and the Ford in particular.
Yeah, I have driven that setup myself as well, and it really is a game changer. It makes the car feel completely different. It's like they've put a new tyre model on it. So it really is quite the setup. Is that the setup you were running today, or have you just made some slight tweaks to it and just to make sure you're nice and comfortable in the car?
I'm really bad at making tweaks to setup, so I was just doing the stock setup, I'm afraid. But I mean, the only downside of it is that it leads to fairly high tyre temperatures. So I don't know if that's been a factor, like near the end of stints, especially the first stint. People going off, I didn't really see it myself because I was still somewhat on track. But it does end up, I mean, I've had stints where the tyres have been 120 coming off of the stint into the pit. So that's the only downside. If they could work on that, that would be great. Maybe Max is listening and can sort it out for us.
Wishful thinking, mate. Wishful thinking. But one last quick question. Obviously, you're one of the RPM drivers, and at the moment, one of your RPM drivers, Nathan Richardson, he's in P4, and he's slowly starting to fall back into the clutches of Russell. So the man that you helped set up this event is now going to possibly put on a charge to one of your drivers. How do you feel about that?
Total loyalty to Nate. He's a fast guy. I mean, he just absolutely comes alive in races. Totally up for it. Practice, I think, can be a bit boring for him. He needs that competition, the cars around him, and I think we've seen today that that's really his forte. So I'm looking forward to driving in the 24 with him, because it's very good to have him on the team. And also, I mean, Jim was doing really well until I think he had a bit of an issue a few laps ago. He's dropped to 21 just in the pits, it seems now, but that's a shame for him. But yeah, I'm certain that Nate will stay ahead of Russell.
Well, I'm hoping he will, and obviously I will try and catch that on the stream as well, as and when it happens, because I'm not going to say not if it happens, or not going to say when it happens, if it happens. We've got to keep some faith in Nathan as well. But while I've got you in the commentary booth, is there anybody you'd like to thank, shout out, anything like that while you're on stream?
I mean, first of all, Russ, obviously, for setting it up. You know, I think it's proven a very popular community race, and I think that's great for the channel. A bit more exposure. Yourself, commentary, I've been listening. It's more top quality work. Yeah, and then to my teammates, to Nathan, Jim. Paul's had a bit of a week 13 week this week, so he's not been doing so much LeMans work, but the other two have been on the track, and we've been sharing expertise. It's been coming more in my direction rather than the other way around, because I need all the help I can get.
Well, it's been great to have you in here, and it's been great to talk to you and get some better insight to what you're dealing with out there, and also your predictions as well for the rest of the race. So thank you very much for joining me, and we might even speak to you and Nathan at the end.
Sounds good. All the best for the rest of the comms, mate.
Thank you very much. That was Rob Lancaster there, one of the RPM Red drivers, sadly retiring from the race not so long back now. But I say that, we've still only got 20 minutes of the race to go, so the race is really disappearing into the distance. And what I'll do, just to see whether I can get the gap up a little better, that's the overall gap to the leader. This is the one we wanted. You can see how close these drivers are getting. We'll go back to the closest two on the timing tower. This is between Matthias oh, Jesus, I might be able to get it right today. I'll put my teeth in. Matthias Bootskofer, there we go. Followed by Remo Zwiefel. But those two are both chasing down Stijn van Nijlen. Lily saying, is it bad that it only took me till now to figure out why there's a lemon in the top right? Not necessarily, because well, it's damn close to the circuit name LeMans, so we thought lemon, and yeah, but on first glance I can see what you mean. Like it's not necessarily what most people would intend to or expect to see on a motorsport stream. The interval, Lily, it's just the gap between the cars, so the interval of time between the two. So we're looking at Stijn van Nijlen now. You look behind him, you can see the gap to Matthias Bootskofer, 0.7 seconds, so 7/10 of a second. And then look back from Matthias Bootskofer, you can see Zwiefel, he is 0.6 seconds behind. So that's just the time between the drivers in front and behind as well. And if it goes to yellow, it means that if it goes to yellow, they're getting quite close. If it goes to orange, like we're seeing now, the drivers are getting very, very close. And if it goes to red, they are pretty much on top of each other. If it's white, it doesn't mean there's much of a battle there at all. We've just had Russell Barnes dive into the pit lane, so I'm not sure what happened to him. He might have had a drive-through penalty for instant points, because he has now dropped back, and that will really be the thorn in his side, because he was putting on a charge to Nathan Richardson, but he's now behind a fiercely forward teammate of Hugo Drouet, and he'll also have to keep an eye behind him as well, because Braden Coates is still working his way up the order. He's in P9 at the moment. There's still quite the gap between these two, but you never know what can happen when these two are battling between Russell Barnes and Hugo Drouet. Obviously, Matt Forrest got past them as well, so this is now a three-way battle for P6. Matthew Forrest leading them followed by Hugo and Russell Barnes. Alexander Coing is slowly disappearing into the distance as well and has separated the two. Hugo Drouet has lost out to Russell Barnes, so Russell making the most of the draft, going on to the Mulsanne Straight. So whether that means that he can get him back going into the first chicane, I'm not sure, but Russell isn't even bothered about that. He's going to get two before the first chicane, so he gets past Hugo Drouet, being the first of his victims, and then Matthew Forrest disappears into the distance as well, disappears behind him as well. So that means Russell Barnes has went into the pits in P5 and in theory has left the pits in P6. So a great job from Russell Barnes, and he should be able to go to the end now with only 20 minutes of the race to go. They're asking, so does that mean Fletcher is 35 seconds behind Crater? It does indeed. So great spot from you, Lily. Billy now 35 seconds behind Alex Crater. So Alex well and truly into the lead, over half a minute ahead. You can see him now just going into the 4 chicanes to tick lap number 25 in the books, going on to lap 26. So here he is crossing the line. Very controlled race, one of the cleanest cars on the grid. Barely had any incidents throughout the race, hasn't had a single off track, so great driving from Alex. He did take part in the previous community race as well, and he did a great job there. But he's just shown his true colours here and shown really how quick he can be around here. Billy Fletcher, there he is, going through the Ford, or through the latter part of the Porsche curves, going up towards the Ford chicanes. I'll get them right today. He's actually not going through the Ford chicanes, he's going into the pit entrance. So I thought Billy pitted quite early, but I wasn't expecting him to pit again. He hasn't got far at all from Yunasamir Aker. There he is. So he should lose out. I say that, but Yunus is diving into the pits as well. So both of these drivers going into the pit lane. The next car behind them is Nathan Richardson. So Nathan might reap the rewards from this if he gets round in time, and if he doesn't have to pit, he might just pick up a final spot on the podium, which would be great for the RPM team. We just spoke to Rob Lancaster in the box, and if he sees this on stream, he will be delighted if his teammate can pick up a podium, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen, because Nathan is also diving into the pit lane now in P4, and I think he will once again leave the pit lane in P4. Jonas Miaka is just about to get to his pit box. There he is, stop the car. Billy Fletcher is just about to leave the pit lane. He's left his pit box already, and he is ready to get back out on circuit. Alexander Coing, is he going to go into the pit lane? He is indeed as well. So everybody having to fall foul of a 2-stop strategy. Russell Barnes pitted on the lap prior, so whether he knows something we don't, and he's decided to pit nice and early and make the most of this. So Billy Fletcher is now back out, and that interval you were talking about, Lily, it's gone from 35 seconds to 1 minute 21. So a great job from Alex Crater, really dominating the race, but we'll have to keep an eye on Alex because he might have to dive into the pits this time by. But that means Billy Fletcher is still in P2, Jonas Miaka is in P3, Nathan Richardson P4, he's just leaving the pits now. We'll keep an eye on Russell Barnes, that's Hugo Drouet. Russell Barnes, here he is. Nathan Richardson just a little further up the road. So Russell now back into P5. Hugo Drouet passing the pit lane, getting into P6. Matt Forrest P7. Alexander Coing still stationary, just gets the car going now in P8. Braden Coates will get another position, so he will promote himself all the way up into P8. So a great drive from Braden, amazing recovery drive from him. Pablo de la Vega also coming into the pits as well. So everybody has to do a two-stop strategy by the looks of it. Matt Forrest was trying to one-stop it, so we'll keep an eye on him. Only 15 minutes of the race to go. Does he have the fuel to last? We'll keep an eye on Alex Crater though, because he's just going through Indianapolis now up towards Arnage. We'll see whether he dives into the pits this time by. If I'm honest, I do think Crater will need to pit again, Lily, because he's got two. In theory, you can only do 50 minutes on a full tank of fuel, and 50 plus 50, you're going to have to do it twice. So I don't think he will be able to one-stop it, unless he knows something we don't, and he's been fuel saving, and he's in a different engine map, so the car uses less fuel. I'm not sure, but I'm guessing he will either pit this time or next time by the pit box. Or past the pit lane, pardon me. So we'll keep an eye on Alex just to see what he can do. But he might just get the position made. We'll just have another little update on the weather. So we'll see what the circuit is doing. Still 21 degrees on the track. 19 degrees is the ambient temperature, so the air temperature around the circuit. So yes, indeed he does, and he has proven me right. He's going into the pits this time by, and very well pointed out by Samuel Seedhouse, he does have a free pit stop now. 1 minute 21 is the gap going into the pit lane, so we'll keep an eye to see what it is when he comes out of the pit lane. The first car that will even get close to him is still Billy Fletcher. I can't believe this. He's gained 24 positions from where he started. I really do hope that he knows we are doing interviews and he gets into the interview chat. If anybody watching is in contact with Billy, or you can contact him anyway, please do tell him to hop into the interview waiting room at the end of the race, because it will be amazing to speak to him. So whether you are in the Finding Speed Discord or not, what I'll do is I'll chuck in the actual link to the Finding Speed Discord. So if you do want to hop in, please do feel free. I'm in there as well. I am a moderator, as well as someone we dragged in earlier, Rob Lancaster. So if you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to pop by and ask. But Billy Fletcher, it's an absolutely dominating drive from him, and Alex Crater has now left the pits, so he's back out on the circuit, going on to lap 27, and I'm not sure how long that pit stop was. It really wasn't long. That was very much a splash and dash. Got all the fuel he needed just to get to the end. It was only 12 seconds stationary in the pit box, 48 seconds from entering to exiting the pit lane. Billy Fletcher crossing the line now, so that gives you a better representation of how big the gap is. We've got somebody in the pits. That's David Guttel in the Pink Pig. He is dived into the pits. The car is going up on the jack, so I'm not sure why he's taking tyres this late on in the race. With only, what, 12 minutes of the race to go, I wouldn't have necessarily suggested to take tyres and just being that extra little bit careful going towards the end of the race. Hugo Drouet coming under pressure from Russell Barnes. So Russell, I said he's possible top 5 on the cards, and he's hoping to do exactly that as long as he can get past Hugo. But I think Hugo actually got the position off him. He did indeed. We'll have a look back at that just to see what happened. Going through Indianapolis up towards Arnage. Russell has a bit of a slide, runs wide on the exit and loses all the momentum he had going up towards Arnage, and loses out. We'll go back live with the battle just to see how close they're getting, and it looks like Hugo has just taken the moment where he needed to, and he's really pushing forward now. He's got 1.5 seconds to Russell, so whether Russell has just decided to lay off a little bit and make sure he takes it nice and easy and crosses the line. He will have to be careful though, because Matt Forrest is just there, currently in P7. Only pitted once. He's one of the only few guys that has pitted once. Same with Hugo. He's only pitted once as well. So it'll be interesting to see what those two do, because it could mean that Braden Coates picks up another 2 positions. So a top 5 for Braden isn't even off the cards as yet. So our original leader, he's been caught up in a massive incident, and what a comeback drive from Braden. He really is pushing forward now. But we'll keep an eye on this battle here. Beautiful noise as the flat 6 Porsche 911 RSR GTE cars, that's a mouthful, go screaming by the exit of Tetra Rouge onto the Mulsanne straight. Russell Barnes still in P6, pushing up towards P5 though. Hugo Drouet has lost 2 positions from where he started, so not necessarily the best race for Hugo. But I don't think that will deter him from keeping his head down. Nathan Richardson's only 11 seconds up the road from these two. So one little mistake from Nathan will drop them into the clutches of Hugo and Russell. Braden Coates is now hot on the heels of Matt Forrest. I'm not sure what happened to Matt there, because he's really lost a load of time. Braden Coates dives to the outside. I think he'll get the move done. He's got the overrun from the draft. He dives to the right-hand side just to make sure Matt can't get any draft off him either. And he's got another position made before he even gets to the second chicane. So Braden Coates all the way now back up into P7. An absolutely amazing comeback drive from the American. And I wouldn't be surprised if he keeps on pushing forward and possibly picks up another position or 2. Like I said, Hugo and Russell are starting to spread out to quite a gap now. There's the gap between them. We just saw Hugo drop away from the bottom of the screen. There he is. So those two really separating now. And we've seen Braden post very quick times. The last lap for Russell, although he did go into the pits, was a 4-minute lap time. Braden's was a 3-minute 52. So when we go past the pit lane, or past the start-finish line this time, we'll get a slightly more accurate representation of what these guys have been doing. But actually going back to that, Braden Coates' last lap time was a 3-minute 52.20, Russell's fastest lap time throughout the entire race is exactly the same, a 3-minute 52.20. So without a doubt, Braden is pushing forward and could even pick up a P6 position here before the end of the race. Only 9 minutes of the race still to go. So Russell will have to keep hot on his mirrors because there's only 1.3 seconds between them now. Russell's been held up by a little bit of traffic as well. So this really isn't what he wanted at all. So Braden really hot on the heels. 9/10 between them now. But Russell will have that draft assistance from the Guttel ahead. That's David Guttel. We saw him in the pits on the lap prior. But Russell didn't get the best run out of there by the looks of it. And he's really dropping back now. We'll look forward from Braden Coates' car if we can get onto the nose cam. There we go. So you can see just how close these two are. We've had an issue for Alexander Coing. It says he's into the pits already. It says he's out of the race even. So I'm not sure what's happened to Alexander Coing. We'll have to have a look back after we see what unfolds here. But Braden really nice and close, and Russell Barnes does decide to let him by, whether that was because of an off-track or he's just well aware that Braden is much quicker. It looks like he was just quicker, and Russell was well aware of it and decided to let him by. Obviously, this is Russell's community race. If you don't know who I'm referring to, Russell Barnes, the man just behind Braden Coates. Here he is here. There we go. He is Mr. Finding Speed. He runs the operation here on YouTube, on Twitter, and in the Discord. So massive thanks to Russell Barnes for allowing me to take control of his channel for the evening. It's been a real pleasure. And yes, great spot, Lily. If the timing tower goes great, it does mean that he's gone off track, and we can get a replay for you here. It does say he's crashed, which isn't very much like Billy at all. He runs wide going on towards Tetra Rouge. Does he avoid the wall? Great driving from Billy. Avoids the wall narrowly on the outside, taps the wall on the outside of Tetra Rouge, gets it going again, and he's still back running onto the Mulsanne straight. So the corner where you really need all the momentum you can get to keep the run going. And Billy has had quite a sad situation there, and damaged what was going to be quite a good little result from him. Yannis Amiaka is now only 1.3 seconds behind him, so he's really got to think about Billy Fletcher. Massive thanks to Lily for pointing that out. I wouldn't have spotted that, so thank you. But Yannis Amiaka really close to the tail end of Billy Fletcher. So with only now, 6 minutes of the race remaining, the podium still hasn't been decided. The lead has all but been settled with Alex Crater, but Billy Fletcher and Yannis Amiaka are only 1.6 seconds away from each other. So P2 and P3 really close now. Braden Coates is now trying to put a charge on Hugo Drouet. So I did say there's a possible top 5 for him here, and if he can get the move done, he will just about grasp the top 5. But knowing Hugo, he won't let it up easy. So there is the pink Porsche causing a little bit of disturbance between the pair again. But it looks like now, because Hugo Drouet is out in front of the clean air, Braden Coates will have the draft assistance from Guttel. David Guttel, I'm assuming he'll get out of the way as he is lap traffic. I'm not sure he's going to, though. He does dive to the outside, so that does mean that Braden Coates has got the preferred line going into the right-hander at the bottom of the Mulsanne straight. But look how close these two are now. Hugo Drouet just about leading Braden Coates, so it's Ferrari leading Porsche, but it looks like the Porsche is going to be much quicker through the corners and on the straight, so the Ferrari maybe not the car of choice for this battle. Once again, we will have a look forward from Braden Coates. We looked forward from him in the previous battle when Braden was on his way towards Russell Barnes. He got the move done as Russell moved out of the way, but that now means Braden Coates is in P6 and he's really pushing on for a P5, so I can't believe I'm about to say this, but Braden Coates has gone from P1 to P28 and he's all the way back up to P6, make that P5 really late on the brakes going into Indianapolis. I did think it was quite hot on the brakes though. Does he get it slowed down in time? It looks like he does indeed. Comes across to defend from Hugo Drouet. Great job from Braden. That's very late on the brakes as well. Going into Arnage, sorry. Runs wide. That does mean that he goes off track as well, so he can't put all the power down. He's still off track, fighting the car off the grass. So all that work Braden has done going into Indianapolis has all come undone, and he's really lost all the time from Hugo Drouet now. That could have been the last chance that he needed. Only 4.5 minutes left to go, and unless Braden can pull something special out of the bag in the last 2 laps of this race, it doesn't look like he will get that P5 he so desperately wanted, but I'm not going to wish upon it just as yet, because that means Hugo Drouet could also make a mistake. He's still got that traffic behind him. Even just a little bit of distraction in his rearview mirror could cause a bit of a mistake. You saw David Gutz, obviously he is a lapped car as well, David Gutzel, pardon me, in P17, just get very, very close to the rear bumper. He gets out of the way this time for Braden Coates, but Braden is now just about 6 tenths between them, make that 5 tenths, almost half a second separating the pair. So these two getting ever closer. I said he'd have to pull something special out of the bag, but I don't think he will. Braden Coates is just absolutely on it, goes around the final corner of the Ford chicanes, crosses the line for the 29th time. Virtual Racing Compound so asking, so how many raced in teams in the end? Let me have a little look through. We've got Lux 24 Sim Esports, so that's 1. Obviously you guys 2. Who else have we got? RPM 3. Actually, what I'll do is I'll bring up the actual entry list so that I can tell you how many people have actually started under the name of their team. So by the looks of it, on first glance, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 teams have entered at the moment. Oh, I've nearly missed that overtake, but that's Braden Coates going around the outside of Hugo Drouet going into the first chicane. He's still side by side with Hugo going into the first chicane of the Mulsanne straight. They collect each other. That will give Braden a slowdown. Hugo Drouet might have a bit of damage from that, but Hugo will punch the throttle. I think he maybe got a slowdown as well. Now Hugo's just being the typical sportsman he is, not wishing to take the overtake in such dire circumstances. But Braden Coates now promoted himself all the way up into P5. So a great job from Braden, and an even better job from Hugo, just letting him by. Lily say ASMR counting, yeah, pretty much. But top 3 teams at the moment, the team Dusty Martini Racing, so that is our current leader. Oh, actually, our top 5 in, sorry, let me try this again. Top 3 in the teams are also the top 3 on the race. So you've got this man here, Alex Crater, who will cross the line very, very shortly for the second to last time. 1 hour 58 or it'll be probably about 1 hour 30, so only 1 minute 30 of the race remaining. This 2 hours really has flown by incredibly quickly, but this is Alex Crater crossing the line for the penultimate time, so the next time by will be the checkered flag. So Alex Crater going on to the last lap of the race. Well, back to the original question, VRC, Alex Crater for Team Dusty Martini Racing is leading the teams, followed by Billy Fletcher for Lux Sim 24 Esports, and Yunus Aka for Wings of Turkey is leading the way. But if it's going off multiple drivers to class it as a team, Billy Fletcher will be P1, RPM Red will be P2, and funnily enough, VRC will be P3. So you will get a podium if the teams are figured out by how many drivers they've got. If the team, for it to be classified as a team, if it needs to have 2 drivers, it will be Lux Sim Lux Sim P1, RPM P2, and VRC P3. So those are the current team standings. Overall standings, I'm sure I've made you well aware of them over the race. Alex Crater still leading the way from Billy Fletcher, and he has just managed to pull out about a second from Yunus Aka, which is what he needed to make sure he's nice and safe going towards the final stages of the race. Nathan Richardson still in P4, and he's 16.8 seconds ahead of Braden Coates, so I don't think that will put much pressure on him as he goes on to the final lap of the race. He will cross the line, I think, just under the 2-hour mark, so he will hear the car stuttering going over the bump, so we'll have to keep an eye on him as well, because whether that is just a bit of fuel surge and maybe he might not have the fuel to go to the end, but I really hope he does, fingers crossed. Braden Coates crossing the line now. Oh no, Braden's going into the pits. I said I wonder whether he could go to the end. Braden Coates diving into the pits for a splash. Now so's Hugo Drouet, but that means Matt Forrest himself for VRC, as long as he doesn't dive into the pits this time, he could cross the line in P6. What does he do? Does he go into the pits? He does indeed. Everybody's going into the pits on the final lap of the race. So Braden Coates, he was looking so good for a possible P5, and he's dived into the pits. at the last lap of the race. So it will literally be a very, very quick in. We'll keep an eye on him. There we go. Grabs the fuel he needs, a couple of litres, and leaves straight away again. Hugo Drouet does exactly the same. And Matt Forrest sadly has come to the same fate. We'll keep an eye on Stein van Nyland. Does he do the same? He doesn't. So Stein doing a great job of fuel management and managing to get to the end. Pablo de la Vega, does he go into the pits? He does indeed. No, he doesn't. That's me being a little too optimistic. So Pablo de la Vega doesn't have to pop into the pits either, but Brandon Coates gone from P5 right the way down into P6. So I don't think he will lose out to anybody else. So I was really hoping for Braden, I keep on calling him Brandon, I was really hoping for Braden to get a P5. The car's still struggling, it doesn't look like he took fuel. So that might mean that Braden doesn't get to cross the line. We'll ride on board with Braden, just have a listen. So it doesn't actually look like that Braden got fuel. This is a proper sort of page-turning event because Braden was P1 for a very, very long while. Dropped right down to P28. Amazing recovery drive, nice and clean, nice and quick. Got his way all the way back up to P5. Dived into the pits on the last lap and he didn't take fuel. That's such a shame for Braden. The next car to attack him will be Stein van Nylen, who doesn't have to take fuel this time by, or he didn't have to take fuel. So that may mean he's got plenty in reserve and he can just keep on pushing forward. So Stein might get a little present of P6 here. Pablo de la Vega is following suit as well. Hugo Drouet did take fuel that time by, so he might have lost out to Braden Coates, but he might pick him up as well on the last lap. We'll keep on looking at Braden. He's got it going now, so whether he's just being nice and careful going onto the Mulsanne straight, he's in a very high gear. You can see a bit of lap traffic even working his way past him. And I think I might have missed it, but that means that Alex Crater has won the FindingSpeed.com 2 Hours of LeMons. So an absolutely amazing drive from Alex Crater, proper dominating stuff. And I'm sorry about missing that, but an absolutely amazing drive from Alex. I can't say it enough. Really well done to him. We'll go back to Billy Fletcher, who's just about to go through the final few corners now. But a great job from Billy, by far a standout drive for me. Definitely driver of the day. Gained 24 positions from where he started. He started in P26 and he's going to cross the line in P2. So the highest Ford finisher in the field as well. You can see he's flashing his lights in pure sort of excitement, working his way through the Ford chicanes. And Billy Fletcher still flashing his lights. Really can't get enough of it here. Going around the final corner. Billy Fletcher crosses the line P2 for the Finding Speed 2 Hours of Le Mans. Absolutely amazing drive from Billy. I really do hope we can speak to him as well. And that Porsche in the background was Jonas Acher crossing the line as well. Nathan Richardson, here he is. The lead RPM driver, sadly missing out on a podium, is just working his way through the final sector as well. Thank you for all the nice comments in the chat, guys. Thank you, Rob. And yes, definitely great work, Alex. Really, he's done an absolutely amazing job. Nathan Richardson crosses the line P4 for RPM Red, so a great job from Nathan as well. Russell Barnes follows just behind. He was looking for a podium at the start of the race, or he was definitely on charge for one, and just about gets given a P5 in the end as Braden Coates sadly loses out and has to dive into the pits. But Russell Barnes, Mr. Finding Speed himself, finishes P5 in the 2 Hours of LeMons. Great drive from Russell. Stein van Nylen is still going through the Porsche curves. You can see just how spread out the field really has got towards the end of the race. But Stein in P6. We'll have a quick look back to Braden. And he's really got to be careful here because Pablo de la Vega is just behind him as well. So he really doesn't want to lose that P7. He's already had a rotten race so far, or a rotten few laps going into the closing stages of the race, and he really doesn't want to lose another position. But it looks like Hugo Drouet has worked his way up the order. Possibly that's a spin for Pablo de la Vega, so Hugo Drouet has gained another position on the final lap, now in P8. So that means Pablo will be kicking himself about that. Stein sliding the car through the final corner, finishing in P6. Braden Coates, absolutely amazing recovery drive. Not quite the result he was looking for with a P5, but the American crosses the line P7 as he runs out of fuel. Hugo Drouet crosses the line P8 for the only fiercely forward car. Pablo de la Vega crosses the line P9. Remo Zweifel, he's on his way He's coming from quite a distance back, but through the forward chicanes, sadly losing 6 positions throughout the race. I was expecting him to finish on the podium. After that rather large incident, he couldn't really do much about that. Crosses the line, P10. Matt Forrest, here he comes. P11, sadly losing out on a top 10 with that very last lap. Pit stop, but great job from Matt. Really, really good job from him, and that will massively help the virtual racing compound team to plan their strategy for the Le Mans 24-hour on June the 20th and 21st. But thank you very much for checking in, everybody. It's been an absolute pleasure to commentate, and we've still got interviews to go as well. But my God, what a race! I would probably do that again tomorrow. It was absolutely crazy, and if you're still in the chat and you're still here, please don't hesitate to let me know what you thought of the race. I really, really enjoyed it. And 2 hours of hard, fast, close action. That was absolutely crazy. We'll have a look just to see if we've got anybody in the interview waiting room. We do indeed. Oh, we've brought him in mid-conversation, so sorry about that, Alex, but wow.
That's all right. That's all right.
What a
Thank
drive.
you.
Absolutely
Oh.
crazy. I don't know what to say to you. It's sort of a dominating drive. You wouldn't have thought that was possible. You would thought 1 minute 21 ahead. How did you do it?
I think a lot of people were trying to go for one-stop strategies, and I think that's where I sort of worked out that I'd rather just go full send for the whole thing, and just do a two-stopper and just try and go as fast as possible. And luckily for me, it worked out in my favor. I think a lot of people were trying to fuel save. I think the setup as well, that was brilliant. I noticed that like straight away I was gaining a lot of time in the third sector, just because I was running a bit more downforce than maybe some other people. But yeah, I think I just got quite lucky. Unfortunately, I had a contact with Braden that put him out of contention a little bit, but hopefully, being my teammate, he can take it as a bit of a team win.
I didn't, even though you were teammates, it didn't pop up on the overlay, sadly. But yeah, I'm sure he'll forgive you. But I just can't get over how you did that. That was an absolutely crazy drive. You were miles in front of everybody else, but the only person to chase you down was Billy Fletcher, and he gained 24 positions from where he started. So at what point were you thinking, or at any point were you thinking, Jesus, I'd better properly get my head down here, because if I make a mistake, he's really going to be on me?
Probably after the first pit stop, I came out and he'd just come out of his pit stop, and I think he was about 13 seconds behind me at one point. I was planning to just sort of try and fuel save and see if I could get an extra couple of laps into the tank. And yeah, unfortunately, when I saw him being 13 seconds behind, I felt like, okay, fuel saving's out. I've got to go now. I think luckily for me, he made a couple of errors, and I managed to gain a bit of time on him. But yeah, he did have me sweating at certain points.
It definitely looked that way. We saw him getting ever closer, and I was expecting, or I was sort of hoping, not necessarily at your demise, that we would end up seeing quite a close little battle between you two. But sadly, it didn't come during the race. But in terms of like the next community race, because I'm sure there will be one, is there something you'd like to see, whether it be a specific class, circuit, anything like that?
I'm not too sure myself, to be honest. I think maybe Formula 3 would be a good call. I think that's really popular at the minute. Maybe I know Finding Speed's audience is a bit more road racing, but maybe an oval race with the new 87 cars. They're a lot of fun, even though I'm not so much of an oval racer myself. But yeah, maybe GT1s as well. I'm a big fan of those. I don't think that they get enough attention on the iRacing roster.
Yeah, all great list there. I'm sure we can obviously put it to community vote, because at the end of the day, that is what we aim to please. But while we've got you in the box, and obviously another massive well done from you, but while we've got you in the box, is there anybody you'd like to shout out, thank, anything like that?
I'd like to give a big thank you to my friends who have supported me by watching the stream. Uh, I'd like to say that your knowing that you were watching made me drive a little bit faster. Um, a big thank you to my teammates and things like that who've helped me become a better driver by putting in the practice with me. We've all been working together to try and make the 24 hours of Le Mans in the coming fortnight a really good finish. So yeah, big thank you to them.
And great list, and I'm sure they will continue to support you in the future after an absolutely amazing result from that. So massive thanks for joining me in the commentary booth, and I'll see you in the next one.
Well, thank you very much, mate. I'll take care.
You too. That was our eventual winner, Alex Crater. But what we'll do now, I'm hoping we don't drag him in mid-conversation. Yeah, of course I do. We got Billy Fletcher, so our P2 finisher. Billy, wow. I mentioned it on the stream so many times. You are my standout driver of the day. You gained 24 positions from where you started. How did you do that? That's insane.
I'm going to make that about 30 positions because at the end of turn 2, I was facing the wrong way in last place. When they bottled up, someone hit me up the rear and rotated me around 180 degrees. So it was a mega fight back, and I rolled the dice on the first stop, didn't take tyres, and I think that came back to bite me a little bit towards the end of the race.
I'm still gobsmacked at how you did that. There was lots of traffic you had to work through, and obviously there was other cars you had to get your way back up through the order, and we kept on keeping an eye on you, and that gap to Alex kept on coming down, going up, and then I think eventually you just sort of got the bit between his teeth and disappeared into the distance. Was there sort of ever a point where you thought, actually, you know what, there's a chance of getting a P1, or were you just focusing on keeping the car on the road and getting to the end?
No, I was trying to chase him down in the second stint. I say I rolled the dice. I assumed people would take tyres in the first stop. I thought I'm not going to take tyres, see if I can make up time. And I came out the pits 18 seconds behind him. I got it down to 12. But then as the tyres started dropping off, I was losing the car's braking capabilities, and it just went wrong a few times, especially at the end of Mulsanne when I overshot it straight on into the gravel trap. At that point was when I went, I ain't going to catch him.
Yeah, so I was really sort of keeping my fingers crossed for you because you 100% deserved it today, but you crossed the line P2, and I'm guessing you can't be happy with that. But was there anybody that you sort of stood out to you to think when you were carving your way up through the order? Obviously, you pretty much race everybody. Was there anybody you thought, actually, I better keep my eye on them because they might end up following me through?
The gentleman who finished third, I can't remember his name.
Yonosumi.
That's it. Yeah, he was pretty quick. He was probably the toughest one to pass, and he was the one I kind of kept an eye on, and I could see him then. And when I made that mistake with the last few laps to go, I was really starting to worry about him coming at me. Just lucky enough, just had enough in the car to be able to pull the gap back out again.
It's dominating drive. It seemed like you had it under control, apart from the few little hiccups. But then that's just what happens when you're on the edge of adhesion and just pushing forward through the field like you were. But while I've got you in the commentary booth, is there anybody you'd like to thank, shout out, or anything like that?
Obviously, big thanks to Rob Luxem24, Paul Gordon, Sim Stickers, Draper Tools, all the sponsors that are on the car that have helped us get to this point, and I appreciate everyone that supported me. And also a big thank you to Mr. Barnes for putting these races.
Yeah, we really couldn't do it without him. But thank you very much for joining me in the commentary box, and hope you have a good evening. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That was Billy Fletcher, our P2 finisher. We've still got a couple of guys to drag in, and let me see whether I bring him in mid-conversation. Yes, I think I almost did. But we've got Nathan Richardson, our P4 finisher. Nathan, it looked like it was quite tense behind the wheel of that Porsche, because there was pretty much a different battle every other lap.
It was every other lap. I was catching up with guys like, I think there was well, every time I overtook anybody, I either got a slowdown or I went off. And I thought, well, and then I catch back up with them again, and it was like, oh, I think I want to relax a little bit. But yeah, it was very tense.
It really did look like it was busy work behind the wheel of that Porsche, and we did speak to Rob during the race because he sadly retired quite late on. And we were talking about sort of the setup and everything like that. Did you find the Porsche just incredibly balanced throughout the race, or was tyre degradation and sort of heat transfer between the track and the tyres something you had to keep in mind?
Only when the track really started to heat up, like when it got to about 2021, that's when I really noticed a big difference, especially with the degradation towards the end of the stint. It was a bit sketchy, a bit worrying. But no, it was all right. I genuinely thought the car was fantastic. like throughout the entire thing. Like just through the Porsche curves, maybe I let off a little bit more than I would normally. But other than that, it felt rather smooth sailing throughout the rest of it. Really, I think I kept my pace generally relatively similar most of the way through. So yeah.
That was something we kept an eye on, and sadly, I didn't mean to click on it. I just clicked on a random point during the replay, and we caught the incident between you and I think it was Coing at the time, where he collected you at the end of the Mulsanne Straight. What's your sort of
Ugh.
point of view on that? Because on my end, it looked like contact that really shouldn't have happened, whether it be due to the word we can't say as commentators, that begins with N and ends in et code, or it was just maybe a bit of over optimism from you or him, either party.
Well, I mean, I don't really know what happened because I was ahead and I was taking the inside and he was on the outside, and I was just braking, and I think there must have been under braking. I would hold my hands up straight away if it was my fault. If I'd moved under braking and knocked him, then I apologise. But other than that, I genuinely don't know what happened because I didn't see him. I just did not see his car.
Yeah, it did look like sort of a 12 of one and half a dozen of the other, or 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, if I actually get the saying right. It was sort of, yeah, one of those things where you can't really apportion blame because both drivers could have equally done something about that, and well,
Yeah,
that's that. That's just motorsport. But was
it's a
that
tough corner to overtake in. It's really tough. It's
yeah.
because it's like you're turning and braking. It's really difficult to overtake that, isn't it?
Yeah, I can imagine it goes against every fibre of your being. But in a race car, turning and braking just is a big no-no because you tend to,
Yeah.
if you're going into the corner forwards, you start turning and braking, you'll go out of the corner backwards. So
Hmm.
yeah, I can imagine it's quite a focusing corner. But while I've got you in the booth and you're on stream, is there anybody you'd like to shout out, thank, anything like that?
Well, I'd like to thank Russell for organising it, and for everybody that I was racing like wheel to wheel with for keeping it as clean as was possible. I think the best one has to be with Russell. I overtook him, and there was a Ferrari in the track, like sideways. It was the closest moment. I think one of the scariest moments. Both me and Russell were going, I don't know how we survived that. But no, thanks to everybody who took part. The more there was loads of people there. It was fantastic, and for a community race, that's what you want. So yeah, it was excellent.
Couldn't have said it better. But thank you very much for joining me, and well done this evening. But I'm going to have to let you go. So thank you for joining me.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Nathan Richardson, our P4 finisher. And what we're going to
No.
do, we brought him in mid-conversation. I've done that to everybody this evening. But the man himself, Mr. Finding Speed, aka Russell Barnes. Not Russell Barnes, aka Finding Speed. He is known as Finding Speed, also known as Russell Barnes. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm really good. I had an absolutely fab time. Really, really enjoyed that. It was just non-stop action from start to finish. It was really good. There was a bit of a lonely stint in the middle, but I was keeping an eye ahead and trying to make some progress, and it was happening. And then I was locking up coming into Dunlop a lot, and so I managed to sort that out. And I really, with about 40 minutes to go, I was probably doing my best driving, to be honest.
We were keeping an eye on you, and we saw Braden Coates coming up very, very quickly, and he did take that P5 away from you momentarily, but he did dive into the pits. Was that something that you were thankful for? Maybe that you nailed your strategy and you knew that you could go to the end, or were you sort of just thinking,
I'll tell you what happened. I was trying to catch Nathan, and I pitted a lap before him, and I was trying to put in a really hot lap, and I overcooked it coming into the final chicane after my pit stop, and as he was coming out of the pits, and I gave myself floor damage on the final chicane, so I was losing, I don't know, 6 or 7 seconds a lap for the last 15, 20 minutes. So I lost. I was sort of aiming for fifth. I think I went down to seventh or eighth, and then the two drivers in front of me actually had to pit for fuel on the white flag lap. So I managed to sort of steal back my fifth, effectively.
I did. I was sort of putting money on it throughout the stream because you went into the pits nice and early, like you mentioned, but I think you left the pits in P14 or something like that. and somehow that strategy just seemed to swing its way in your favour, and you were always around that sort of P7, P5 mark, and it just seemed to pay off for you. Was that something that you're expecting, or were you just thinking, right,
Yeah, I
keep it on
mean,
the road?
it's always a bit of a gamble, isn't it, with a pit stop? But I found myself with a decent gap. I had some clear road. After the first pit stop, the tires were feeling good, the car was feeling good, and I managed to get some sort of good driving done in that period. So yeah, it pays off. Sometimes it doesn't pay off, but I do tend to favour a slightly early pit. If it feels right.
Well, it definitely worked, and yeah, you can't complain for that. You did say your end goal was catching Nathan, and sadly you didn't quite get there. But yeah, I'm
No,
guessing
he
you.
did really well. He did really well to stay ahead. I think we got within sort of 5-6 seconds, and I was bringing it down right up until I hit that floor damage issue, and then obviously walked away. But he drove a great race, and massive congrats to him, and obviously Billy and Alex as well, who just did amazingly. I mean, Billy ended up
26th.
right at the back at one stage, didn't he?
Yeah, he was like pretty much stone dead last, and he worked his way so well up the order. He gained 24 positions from where he started and got himself all the way up to second. So a mega job from him. But while you're in my commentary booth on your channel, is there anybody you'd like to thank, shout out, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, everyone who's been watching, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been fun. Everyone who took part, we had a really, really great turnout for this. We had some top drivers in, and it was excellent. Obviously, thanks to you, Jack. How's your throat after 2 hours of commentary?
Yeah, it's a little sore. It's a little sore. I had a 2-3 minute break at the 40-minute mark, but I thought, right, I'm not missing any more of this because I couldn't. There was too much going on.
Well, listen, I'm super excited to watch it back. I can't wait to watch it back. And also, another quick shout out to Rob for helping with some of the organising. He was a good sounding board, and he was really, really useful. So cheers for that, buddy. Appreciate that. But yeah, other than that, yeah, I'm just absolutely chuffed a bit. So they went well. We're definitely going to do this again. We will pick another sort of 24 or 12 that's on the horizon, and we'll take that track and do like a 3 hour next, I reckon.
Well, going off that, you've got Spa coming up, and is that some like a circuit you enjoy, or is it just a bit too off tracky for you?
Oh, Spa's amazing. I mean, obviously we'll have special dispensation for Spa off track ness. But yeah, no, I like a bit of Spa. Who doesn't like Spa? Come on.
Yeah, to be fair, it's a circuit that is quite hard to like. But thank you very much for joining me in my commentary box, obviously. Um, and
Cheers, man.
I'm sure
Appreciate it. Good job. Good job
we'll
tonight.
talk
And
it
that
over
was
tonight.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you
thanks,
very
buddy.
much, mate. That was Mr. Finding Speed himself. So thank you very much to him. I know he'll be watching this back, so thank you very much, mate, for letting me take control of your channel for the evening. And I'm hoping I get to do this again. We've had Braden Coates in the chat saying thanks to the Finding Speed channel for putting on a great race. Had a drive-through penalty at the end. Thought I needed fuel, but apparently I was too far left to get any and ran out at the line. So that's not the end of the race you were looking for, Braden, but a great race nonetheless. Managing to cross the line P7, an amazing recovery drive as well. But other than that, thank you very much if you are still in the chat, and thank you very much if you have watched this, whether you're watching this as a re-upload or you've been sat here for the whole 2 and a bit hours for watching the entire stream. But from me, Jack Werrell, and everybody else that took part, and anybody else that works behind the scenes at the Finding Speed channel, and obviously anybody that's watching this as well, you really do make this worth doing. So thank you very, very much for watching, and yeah, I'll see you soon.